Hello, guys, and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I am your host, Rob Goodwin. I am joined, as ever, by my Vegas brother in arms. It's Mr. Matt Turner. Now, Matt, I'm obviously going to ask how you are in a moment. I'm sure we've got lots and lots to share. But this was basically an episode that we were going to do as a Vegas Megasode. It was solely going to be focused on Las Vegas. And we are going to do a review of all of Stardom's Golden Week shows. That is going to be next week's show. So please don't worry. We're not missing them out. We're just pushing them back so we can do it all as one big recap. But then news started dropping and news continued to drop. So we are going to do a news segment as well, which will possibly take a considerable amount of time on this podcast before we delve headlong into the Stardom Cast adventures in Las Vegas. But brother, how are you today?
I'm great, buddy. It's a beautiful day outside. Things are rocking and rolling as we're recording this. We are on Free Comic Book Day, which do you guys have that over in England?
I honestly no, I don't think we might do, but I'm not big. I'm not the biggest into comic books. Like, I love the comic book movies. I'm familiar with them, but I don't collect comic books. So I'm possibly not the best person to ask in the UK.
It's usually the first Saturday of May, and that's usually when Marvel will drop one of their big movies.
Right.
So
Okay.
obviously we have Thunderbolts coming out this weekend, which is getting insane
Of
reviews.
Course.
It's getting insane reviews. So that. I haven't gone to a Free Comic Book Day in a few years just because I was always busy with wrestling or something. Just didn't really go with my schedule. So this is the first one I'm going to in a long time. But I'm excited for Thunderbolts. So I'm going to see that on Friday. So as we're recording this tomorrow. So I'm super excited for that. Super excited for Free Comic Book Day. Super excited to talk about the most anticipated show from you fans. Yes, you fans, literally with less than 24 hours after we dropped our 4-hour plus live stream of All-Star Grand Queendom. I had so many people saying, yeah, that was a great episode. When you guys releasing Vegas? When are you guys releasing Vegas? I woke up to, Rob, I nowhere to lie, at least 5 messages from people saying, are you dropping Vegas today? Are you dropping Vegas today? Are you dropping Vegas? I'm like, we were recording it. If you're a Patreon member, it should be in your feed depending on what time I get this done, because this is going to be another long one because there was a lot of shenanigans in Las Vegas. But in the 3+ years I've been part of the Stardom Cast, this is easily the most requested episode from all of our fantastic listeners of the Stardom Cast. So yes, we were kind of going back and forth if we're going to cover the show from the 29th from Stardom, and then me and you just decided let's just do this one. It's going to be all Vegas. Obviously, massive news we've had. So this one's going to be all Vegas, and then we will get all of the Golden Week stuff. So next week will probably be another 3 to 4 hour episode because there's a show like every other day. But no, brother, I'm doing well. How's things over in your neck of the woods? How are you feeling on this fine day?
I mean, I can't complain. I mean, look at what we are doing today. The weather is absolutely stunning outside. It's 28, 29 degrees Celsius. Again, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's a hefty temperature, which we're not used to in the UK, but it is lovely. So again, can't complain. It's been a lovely drive today to work. And again, we get to record and talk about our exploits in Las Vegas and break down all of this news. So who, Matt Turner, am I to complain?
Yeah, we're nobody complained. No, I mean, this was a great, it's 2 in a row. We're 2 for 2, buddy. Another great WrestleMania weekend. And the weather was much warmer in Las Vegas, that's for sure, than it was in the cold, yet fantastic Philadelphia from last year. But yeah, there's that and a whole bunch of news I guess we got to talk about because this was a week in Joshi, was it not, my friend? I don't know if we'll ever have a busier week in Joshi than this one. Obviously, All-Star Grand Queendom, breaking the all-time record. Tam retires. Mayu leaves. Mayu now with another company, which we'll get into. Meiko Satomura retires. It's just been a wild week in Joshi. We get to cover it all, buddy. So, I mean, who better than us? Who's got it
better than us? Exactly. No, I agree. It's certainly been an interesting week. Obviously, we dropped our 4-hour live stream. And again, thank you to everyone that stuck around with us and made that stream a really, really fun stream to do. But obviously, following that, Stardom held a press conference and basically just all manner of stuff hit the fan in terms of the Stardom roster, which has been ripped in twain, let's say, through various things. We are going to be chatting, obviously, about that. We're going to be chatting about Hazuki in Pro Wrestling Wave, along with Ronnie Yagami and Akira Kuragani. We're going to be talking about Maika and what's going to be happening with her, Stardom in New Japan, obviously the huge news about Mayu Iwatani, and just a few other pieces of information before we dive into Las Vegas. But Matt, before we do any of that, before we talk any of that nonsense, what, dear fellow, is coming up on the Patreon this week?
Patreon, as we wrap up the month of April, as we go from your birthday month and Andy Hedder's birthday month, and we go into my birthday month, we end it with an absolute bang. Our alternate commentaries, we go to All-Star Dream Cinderella from March of 2021 as Utami Hayashishita defends the World of Stardom Championship against Saya Kamitani. And now fast forward 4 years later, and both of them are on top of their respected Joshi companies. So that was a really cool one to call back with you, my friend. Also, we just, as of just today, myself and Andy Hedder, we dropped our tag team breakdown, a match that I have not seen in quite some time, just from a random, as we call Stardom World shows, as Crazy Star. Remember them when they were on the same team? Crazy Star.
Do you remember them? They were a thing.
Suzu Suzuki and May Sarah take on the Queen's Quest team of Utami Hayashishita and Azumi. And let me tell you something. This isn't in a big show. It's not on a pay-per-view, not a cork. And I was just going through matches in 2023. And I came across this one. And I was like, that's one that me and Andy will do for Tag Team Breakdown. And let me tell you something, buddy. That was a phenomenal match. And I advise everybody, I believe it was December 5th, 2023. Take the time to watch that one. But myself and Andy, we break down that instant classic hidden gem of a match from back in 2023. And then myself and Andy, we recorded, and it will be dropped on your Patreon feeds this weekend. It's very timely. We do our top 5 favorite Meiko Satomura matches, our all-time top favorite Meiko Satomura matches. And that was a real fun one. So that's everything that is on the Patreon feed now and coming at the end of the week. That'll take us into the month of May. And for May, we are going to be doing, at least for alternate commentary, we're going to be doing a little tribute to a return of one of our favorite Stardom wrestlers of all time, Jungle Kyona. Again, if you don't know, Jungle Kyona has announced her return, pretty much full-time wrestling for Dream Star fighting Marigold. I'll tell you what, Marigold's got a lot of momentum going. A lot of buzz on said company. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing our alternate commentary will be Jungle Kyona matches. The first match we're going to be looking at for the month of May will be Jungle Kyona challenging Mayu Iwatani for the World of Stardom Championship, the red belt from back in 2020. Our roundtable discussion, which Rob Goodwin will be tagging himself back in for the roundtable discussion. Again, we just had one Joshi legend retire, Meiko Satomura. As I just mentioned, me and Andy Hedder did our top 5 favorite Meiko Satomura matches. So me and Rob Goodwin will be taking a look back at the career of Nanae Takahashi, and we'll be talking about our personal top 5 favorite matches from the first red belt champion. So again, Meiko obviously retired. We wanted to show her some love, and we're going to be doing something on Talk Joshi with her, and we're going to be reviewing that match she had with Minoru Suzuki. Don't think we forgot about that, folks. Don't think we forgot about that. But now it's time to show some love for the first ever red belt champion. So again, sometime in the month of May, Rob and I will be doing a roundtable discussion with one Nanae Takahashi, and then myself and Andy Hedder sometime in the month of May, we're going to be bringing back a rivalry review of Natsupoi versus Starlight Kid, just because I need an excuse to go back and watch their Wonder of Stardom Championship match for Dream Queendom. There's that and so much more. Again, guys, we're still trying to recover from Vegas. We recorded so much material this past week, so much awesome stuff coming out in the next week and beyond and whatnot. And, we might be doing some interviews that might be on tap. So there's a lot of great stuff I'll probably have by this weekend figured out what else I'm going to be doing, like for the What If and other bonus episodes for the month of May. So again, absolutely loaded stuff that we've already dropped, loaded stuff coming out this week. And in the month of May, there's going to be some fantastic stuff. Oh, I forgot. Is it still 5 stars? Now, what we're doing, again, because it's my birthday month, a little bit of different, Rob Goodwin. We're doing Is It Still 5+ stars? Once again, a match that you're going to shake your head. Andy Hedder has not seen. One of the very few matches that have broken my 5-star Stardom ranking. Giulia versus Sherry, Dream Queendom 2022. Yes, I know. How has he not seen that match? How has he not seen that match? But we are going to be doing that. Is it still 5+ stars? You know why? Because I need an excuse to go back and watch said match. So again,
of course,
so much,
obviously.
so much great content coming up on the Patreon feed this month and pretty much every month, because we do not run short of ideas. And if we do, we always take suggestions, my friend. We always do.
Absolutely. It's another massive week on the Patreon. Thank you to each of our Patreon members. We massively appreciate every single one of you for the support that you give us. Patreon.com/the Stardom Cast, where you can get hours and hours and hours of bonus content, as well as all of our free episodes early and ad-free, if that is your jam. Matt, we might as well tackle the news of the day. There's a couple of things, obviously, that have happened today. The last time we did a Stardom cast, Mayu Iwatani was still a member of Stardom. Now, that was 4 days ago. Okay, in that 4 days, not only has she announced that she is leaving Stardom, she has found her new home. But that is not the big news. The big news is the creation of her dog's Instagram page, which caused a huge kerfuffle online very briefly before it was announced. Obviously, she has joined Marigold. Marigold announced a press conference yesterday, the 30th of April, said it was an emergency press conference and that it would be on the 1st of May. Obviously, that was this morning, 8 a.m. British Standard Time. It basically was called to announce that Iwatani had signed and that she would indeed be the mystery opponent for Nanae Takahashi's Passion Countdown match, which will take place at Korakuen Hall on May 4th, which in itself, aside from it being Mayu versus Nanae, which is going to be great, it's a landmark in that we haven't seen that as a singles match since June 10th, 2012, which obviously 13 years ago, or just under, obviously it'll be 13 years ago this year since we have seen Mayu Iwatani in the ring with Nanae in a singles competition. She outlined a lot of different things. She was very adamant that she had not been poached, which really made me laugh. But she's also outlined a couple of things that she wants to do from now on. She is not obviously known as the icon of Stardom for obvious reasons. She is now known as the icon of Joshi Puroresu. She's confirmed that she will be a full-time touring member of Marigold. So she won't just be on the Korakuens or the pay-per-views. She'll be on all of the house shows as well. She wants to become a Grand Slam champion, winning all of the company's current championships. And of course, perhaps most excitingly, she did mention by name Io Sky, Kairi, and Giulia as people she has got her eye on that she would like to wrestle in the States. And then finally, it has been confirmed that Mayu will wear the number 219 as her back number for Marigold, 219, because she was born on the 19th of February. Now, Matt, obviously this caused a lot of ripples online, even though I think it was widely believe that this was going to be what it was. Obviously, the reaction has been fantastic. The reaction has been nothing but positive from people in Stardom, from people in Marigold. It really good to see people like Natsumi Shozuki, who of course hasn't wrestled Mayu in God knows how long, probably a similar amount of time to Nanae, saying welcome back. Obviously, Mayu came out because it was Rossy Ogawa's 68th birthday with a birthday cake, which again was lovely, but then in true Mayu fashion, bought a lighter that didn't work.
That might not to cut you off. That might have been a blessing in disguise. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Mayu Iwatani with fire, not a good idea.
Welcome
she did
to
also
Marigold.
Absolutely. Welcome to Marigold. But yes, so there's a couple of things to take from this. One thing that I really liked is that she has basically said what you said was going to happen in terms of Mayu not taking over, because I know that Mariah is doing a fantastic job in the dojo and other members of the senior roster, but Mayu said that she wants to do some stuff in the dojo with some of the rookies and things like that. I think she said that there's quite a lot of botches, so she wants to work on that. I was like, okay, Mayu, say it as it is, Jesus. But yeah, really exciting. And I brought this up when we were talking about this on the Marigold Standard on Monday, which of course you can check out in the archives. Mayu seemed completely different in this press conference, and we mentioned Sayurida had tweeted something out, and again, you've got to be careful with translations, but she tweeted something out that said something about Mayu being herself and seeing Mayu as herself, and if that is what going to a different company was going to do, then Sayu was happy for her. And here you could just see Mayu in her absolute element. There was just happiness radiating from it. And for me, I put this on Twitter, that's the most important thing for me. Like the excitement about the matchups we're going to get, the buzz that it brings to Marigold, the happiness on the face of the ordinarily stoic Rossi Ogawa, who basically looked as though one of his children had come home, which effectively she has. But the most important thing was the fact that Mayu seemed so genuinely happy and just elated to be there. That, for me, transcended everything in this press conference, Matt.
Yeah, we had a call. I remember when Rossi first got let go, fired, and obviously the way we talked about this over a year ago. I'm not going to rehash it. I mean, the way that went about it wasn't the best way to get rid of the guy that started the company. But we had a couple of our fans that were out there in Japan for the first few shows, and you can just see Mayu just wasn't herself. And it took a little bit. And Teru Okada did say there was a lot of time. He spent the most time with Mayu. And you could see eventually over time, Mayu got happy. Like she was happy. She was doing things. She was having great matches. And just seemed like, okay, this is maybe we're at a good spot now. And it took about a month or two. And then, she re-signed for that 1 year, gave him the 1 year, went to Marigold. And I don't think a lot of people online were saying, well, maybe she was unhappy. I don't think she was unhappy. I just think she's happier now. Like, again, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, like her happiness the last year, I think was here, but now it's like right over here because you're absolutely right. Rossi is her father figure. I mean, even Jungle Kiona tweeted out a picture of, which is really cool. It said whenever Mayu's the runaway wrestler, she always runs her way to Rossi Ogawa's house, which I thought was really cool. It was really nice. Again, we were literally having two of Rossi's children come back. Again, Jungle Kiona hasn't wrestled for Rossi in 4 or 5 years, obviously because of Jungle, being retired because of her injury. And now, here comes Mayu coming back. So it really just seems like now you're throwing in the stuff with Marvelous. It really seems like there's so much clicking at the right time. And now you're adding in Jungle Kiona. You're adding in Mayu, probably the greatest women's wrestler of all time, pretty much still in her prime. I think me and you are in agreement. 2024 was Mayu's best in-ring year, which is saying something because she's been dynamite since really, 2016, 2017. And so, again, she looks happy. That's what we want. This is going to be great for the business because it's going to help Marigold. And they've already, now I think 8 hours after the announcement, they have sold out that Cork and Hall show. Yep. And we just reviewed that Cork and Hall show with Marvelous versus Marigold in the main event. Drew a little under 700 people. So this one is going to more than double it just by adding in Mayu. So it just goes to show you already the immediate impact she is going to have. And I did like how she did make mention, and I'm not going to use the B word because I don't like that. As a pro wrestler, I just don't like that word. I'm glad you used it, not me. But I'm glad she brought that up because it is something that that you can plainly see. And it's like, the rookies, they're young, more repetition, you're going to see them get better. And we've seen them get better, the Rhea Satos, even the Nagisa Takamanas, they've all gotten better so quickly already. Now you're adding in Mayu, who's going to help out at the dojo before the shows, during the shows, after the shows. What is going to happen to these wrestlers in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months? They're going to get progressively better. Not only that, but once you get these younger aspiring Joshi wrestlers that want to go to training, well, Mayu's there. How many people have Mayu inspired? So you're going to see a lot more rookies being influxed into Marigold over the next 2 or 3 years, if she's still there. If she's still there. Because again, there are reports, the reports are still out there that she may be going to NXT to be Kane's daughter and to be Mayu Kane. I've been sitting on that one all day. What do you like better, Mayu Kane or Kane Iwatani? Which way do you think they're going to go?
Oh, Kane Iwatani sounds awful. Oh my God.
And that's what it'll be. And that's what it'll be.
Jesus Christ.
That's what it'll be. But no, it was so funny because when they announced it was going to be a press conference, I think everybody knew what it was. And I still had some people tagging me on Twitter, like, Matt, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? And I had to have fun with it. And I basically, everybody I said, and obviously you've seen this because I tagged you in them, I said, the press conference is going to be about on the YouTube stream for the last Marigold Standard, how fantastic Rob Goodwin's hair is. And obviously, even now on the Stardom cast, that your hair looks fantastic. Literally the point we are just getting ready to record, I'm like, I got to go redo my hair because I got to get it looking almost as good as yours. So I'm happy that Mayu, she's happy. I'm a little upset they didn't touch upon your hairdo.
Well, I mean, it was my gift to Rossi on his 68th birthday, and the fact that it wasn't mentioned is just slightly disrespectful.
We'll get over it. We'll get over it. But 'cause that's what we do, buddy. We soldier on. But no, she looks really, really happy. It just happened. Everything lined up so well. Like Mayu goes out and has one of the best matches of her career against Shuri. The next day, they did a great job. Let's remove the Band-Aid. Like, I think everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Mayu's on her way out, press conference. Now she's in Marigold. So, and again, I liked how it was. They weren't going to leave that as a mystery. At least this way, it's like, that's smart. Because some people did think that they were going to leave this as a mystery until Nanae's partner was announced, like last second. I'm like, no, announce it to being Mayu. This way, it'll help sell some tickets. And sure enough, they sold out Cork and Hall, which they haven't done, I think, since the Giulia farewell. So that's great, and that card looks great. So, and I believe that's this Sunday. So again, more great wrestling to look forward to. I didn't get a chance to see the Meiko Satomura retirement. I still didn't get a chance to see the Jungle Kiona return match. That's how busy we have been in the best way possible. So I have a lot of work to do in the best way possible. But I even tweeted something out earlier today that, between what Stardom's doing, and they're still going to do. Stardom's still going to be Stardom. They're still going to be absolutely fantastic, despite Mina leaving to go to AW, despite Tam retiring, despite Mayu going to Marigold, despite Maika being out for, who knows, 6 to 12 months. Shows are still going to be really good because it's Stardom. But we get to cover all this. Like, we get to cover all of this, and we have a voice to talk about all this. This is great for us over here on the Stardom Cast / the Marigold Standard / Talk Joshi, because this is all stuff that we get to cover. And again, we've seen Mayu pretty much wrestle everybody in that Stardom roster. Now we get to see Meiko, the matches with Meiko Ano, the matches with Natsumi Shozuki, the matches with Victoria, Tom Holland, Yuzuki, the match, another match with Mariah, a match with Mai Sakurai. This is completely different Mai Sakurai than she was a year and change ago when she was leaving to go over to Marigold. And again, Mayu wouldn't have said it if there wasn't some truth there. We are going to see, because she did say she wants to not only wrestle Io, but team with Io. So we may be seeing the reunion of one of the greatest Joshi tag teams of all time in Thunder Rock. Now, the one thing that I have to ask you, Rob, is your picture with Io Sky, which we were going to get into because this is going to be a Vegas episode. You were probably the only person that did the Thunder Rock pose with Io. Do you think that had something to do with it? Do you think with your Tip Top Magoo hairdo, do you think you influenced the possible reunion of a One Thunder Rock?
Look, I don't want to say I directly influenced it, but if I have in any way sort of facilitated that, then I'm more than happy to have given something back to the wrestling community. No, obviously it's incredible stuff. I reckon that you're right. Mayu doesn't mention Io Sky if there's no smoke without fire, that sort of thing. I still don't think that means she goes to WWE. I know there's a couple of people online who are still like, oh, she's going to go and she's going to wrestle with these people. No, it's bringing Io back to Marigold, or potentially a Marigold show in the US. It's not going to be her going to the US. She said in an interview since she's left Stardom how much of an introvert she is. Like, she said the other day that she'd been up till 4 a.m. doing puzzles. Like, she's an introvert. She likes her home. She likes her dogs. She likes her cat. She ain't going to America. At least not for a wrestling deal. She will go for a couple of shows maybe, but it's no secret that she doesn't want to do that. The fact that she has found a new home, one where she is so unbelievably happy, and one where her impact is unbelievable. Like, you think about the difference between the Corrigan Hall show that we've just watched, again, which was a phenomenal show. Go and check out the review in the archives, and go and check out the show on Wrestle Universe, because that main event, one of my matches of the year. 690 people they drew here to that one. And then to this one, which I've seen the reports that the show is sold out. So you're looking at 1,500, maybe 1,600, depending on how the show is set up. It's a 1,000 people swing. Like, obviously, we know that might tail off again.
Sure.
but bringing someone in who has proven star quality, someone who has never wrestled full time anywhere else other than Stardom, all these fresh matchups, the fact that you have a star on your roster to go with Utami, it's only going to be good things for Marigold. And obviously, you bring in Jungle Kiona as well. I know that obviously you are losing Nanae Takahashi, which is a huge loss for Marigold, but bringing Mayu in is an incredible coup. And you can see how much it meant to both Rossi and to Mayu as well.
And the fans, because
Yeah, absolutely.
it's all been positive. It's all really been positive. And I made mention this when we did the live stream. It's kind of because we figured this was going to happen. It's kind of bittersweet because she is the icon of Stardom, but at the same time, who is Stardom? It's Rossi. Like he is the one constant. And again, you can't ask if you're the people working for Stardom, you couldn't ask, and you knew this is Mayu's last year. You couldn't ask for anything more between the matches, the two matches with Shuri, the match with Momo, with Sari, the match at the Tokyo Dome with Azumi. She really put 150% into that final year. She really left it all on the mat, and she did business the right way. Putting Shuri over in arguably, outside of the EO matches, probably her best match ever. I mean, really, it's kind of hard to, that might be I know Darren sent me a message today that he wants me and you to do a roundtable of not the top 5, top 10 favorite Mayo matches. And I was like, oh boy, that will be mine as long as this one. That one.
I'll tell you who we need on that one as well.
Karen?
Scotty Wrestling.
Oh, that
he
will be
loves Mayu. Like,
really? Honestly, I didn't know that.
I don't know if you saw
breaking news.
I don't know if you saw by any chance. The man hasn't slept in 3 days. But yeah, it's great to see that.
I'm so happy.
Mayu's fans. I'm so happy as well.
I'm so happy for her. And again, what this does is, when you take a step back, this is great for Marigold. This is great for the fans. Again, because not only is it fresh matchup, most importantly, she's so happy. But Marigold is now, they're a major player. And again, considering the fact they've been a company for about a year, and this will be like their third sellout of Corkin Hall, 3,000 people in Sumo Hall. They've only been a company for a year. You have a major player, again, arguably the greatest women's wrestler of all time. I know there's really no argument with me, you, and one Scotty Wrestling that we have Mayu number one. Sometimes I tell you what, though, Io, what she's been doing lately on the biggest stage, especially the NXT tag match, I'm like, oh boy. And
goodness gracious me.
Again, how lucky are we? Because those are like 1A and 1B for us, and we get to watch them in their prime and then talk about it on these platforms we have. So again, it's another reason why we're so happy and so blessed. But I'm glad she just seems so happy. The fans are so happy. It's intriguing. There's so much buzz on Marigold now. And I mentioned this before. You have that relationship, not only WWE, but Marvelous. So you can see Mayu versus Io possibly this year, Mayu versus Kairi sometime this year. She mentioned Giulia. Her and Giulia have had some really great bangers, in the 5-star Grand Prix. They had that 30-minute draw at the Nagoya Supreme fight back in the beginning of 2022. And then with Marvelous, Takumi Iroha. And I made mention it before. I may mention it again. You have to, they had those 2 great matches 5 years ago in 2020 where Takumi won one, Mayu won another. It's right there, all for the taking. Who wouldn't want to see the Mayu versus Sanka? Mayu and Utami versus Magenta. There's so many dream matches that we can have. And again, I say it all the time. I haven't said it in a while, so I'm going to use this platform to say it now. Tribalism in wrestling is dumb. It's
absolutely
dumb. And because we love Stardom, we love Marigold and Marvelous and Sendai Girls and every other company, we can watch it all and enjoy it all. And the fact that Mayu does leave Stardom but goes to Marigold, there's a very good potential we may see the rematch we've been waiting for around 7 years with Mayu versus Io. And who've been the 2 best women's wrestlers in the world the last 3 or 4 years? Mayu and Io. Again, how lucky are we? How lucky are we? We may see the 3 of them back in the ring at the same time, Rob. And I was thinking about this the other day. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. And I love everything of Star Wars. I love episode 1, 2. I love the Acolyte. Give me all the Star Wars I'm fine with. One little nitpick I had with the last 3 movies, we never got to see the Star Wars 3-dom together. Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker. We never got to put them in the same scene. I don't know how they missed that, but we may see Stardom's Han, Luke, and Leia in the same scene again. It's just, and I don't care if it's in a Stardom ring, Marigold ring, AEW, AWA, Bill Watts, Mid-South. I don't care. I just want to see that. And we're probably going to see it this year. Unbelievable. What a year. Meiko Satomura retiring. Thank you for everything. Nanae retiring. Thank you for everything. Stardom breaking the all-time record by over 2,000 people. Thank you, Stardom. Freedom, possibly in a Marigold ring. The fact that we get to talk about it on this platform and people want to hear us talk about it, it's mind-blowing, buddy. It's absolutely mind-blowing. You throw in our hails, I'm unbelievable.
It certainly it certainly is humbling. Again, it's a really exciting time in wrestling, because just this shift on its own is going to make really, really interesting viewing going forward, not just for Stardom, but for Marigold. And, it's going to be interesting to see what Marigold can then set up. And I've said before, I'm not one for introducing WWE wrestlers for the sake of it into Marigold, just so I'm not for AEW wrestlers in Stardom, because I don't want to see those wrestlers taking spots, prominent spots off of the talent from Marigold or Stardom. And that's always been my thing. However, when you have got a story of Mayu and Io, and that match is going to draw tickets, it's going to draw big, big bucks. I mean, Marigold must be rubbing their hands together. Again, we're not talking about bringing Io in 4 or 5 times, just once against Mayu, or maybe twice, once for a tag, once for a singles. Again, you're going to make big, big, big buck. This feels like a really, really huge, monumental shift for Marigold. And I'm so happy for everyone there. I really, really am. Because obviously we've got friends in Marigold, and I know that they are going to be absolutely buzzing.
Rob, real quick, fantasy booking. Obviously, we're probably going to get Io versus Mayu across the ring from each other. But again, Mayu did make mention Thunder Rock. Who do you book Thunder Rock against?
My immediate thing then was Celine Flora. I would probably say Utami and Victoria Yuzuki.
I was going to say the same thing. If not Yuzuki, Mariah, just because those are your 1-2 punches.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Utami has that, she's got that relationship with Victoria Yuzuki. Obviously, Mariah would be great because, again, you're putting literally the 2 best ever in Stardom against your top 2 in Marigold for now. Obviously, Mayu shifts everything. She shifts that. I mean, there's a whole, not so many shows. Miko Anna would be a good shout, but as far as star power, you definitely have to have Utami across from the ring from. But Celine Flora is a good shout. But yeah, I agree with Utami and Yuzuki. I think that'd be, it doesn't really, you can put them against anybody and it's going to be great, but I think that would be the way to go.
It's interesting as well because it really does again reinvigorate this Dream Star, because the Dream Star before, I think we always knew Mayu would be coming, but we didn't know when. So you had the potential at one point of a Dream Star with no Bozilla, no Nanae, and no Sari. Now we're assuming that Sari's not going to be in it. We haven't seen Sari obviously since the 3rd of January. They're 3 big, big stars to be without. However, you bring Mayu in and you have the option of these singles matches in that Dream Star Grand Prix. That alone is worth ticket admission. Again, we've mentioned it before, but Mayu Iwatani versus Meiko Ano, Natsumi Shozuki, the rematch with Victoria Yuzuki, Kazuna Tanaka, and then obviously you've got your big, big, big matches in Mariah and Utami. I don't know why it's recently been going around on Twitter, but there is a GIF going around, I believe it is of their 5-star Grand Prix match, where Mayu does a dive and Mariah moves, and oh my God, Mayu just face plants the floor. And it's like, how does she get up? How does she get up?
Yeah. If you remember, the finish of the match was Mariah throws in the ring and hits 2 lariats, one in the back of the neck and then one in the front. So it's
Mariah absolutely destroys it. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. And that was the finish. I was like, oh, all right. Those back-to-back nights on 2022. I just saw something, not to cut you off. I just saw something. Somebody had a program from 2022 Stardom and how loaded the roster was. And I was like, and I tweeted whoever put the picture up, thank you, but I retweeted. I said the most loaded roster and arguably the greatest single year of any wrestling company ever. You look at that roster: Sherry, Giulia, Mayu, Utami. Sai Kamitani, Azumi. It's insane. It's insane how loaded that roster was in 2022, and it just goes to show. Just the bubble got a little bit too big because Giulia obviously goes, and whatnot to WWE, and obviously big things for her because she's pretty much skipped 2 months in NXT, and they're like, no, bring her up. But sorry, I got on a tangent there. I was just thinking about how low the roster was.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because that 2022 roster, and you talk about how loaded that roster is. You've now got no Mayu, you've now got no Utami, no Mariah, no Giulia, no Mai Sakurai,
No Rossi.
No Rossi. There's a lot of change in there, which, again, no Tam, obviously.
I'll say this though, real quick, buddy, for the Stardom fans that are like, whoa, 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 who are your 3 big champions in 2022?
Shiori, Sai Kamitani, and I'm assuming you're talking about the high speed championship, because that was Azumi.
Mm-hmm. And who's still there?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So again, they're going to be fine.
Need to push. Yeah, and there's no need to push the panic button. We are going to be talking a little bit about the stuff that came out of this press conference that Stardom had. Obviously, we've talked about the Marigold press conference a little bit now, and we've talked about Mayu. I reckon we've done 2 hours on Mayu over the 3 podcasts that we've done. So please
wait till next week, because we're going to be reviewing their first match. And
Jesus Christ. So, yeah, obviously, we are going to be touching on the other stuff that Stardom talked about in their press conference on the 28th of April, which was the day after All-Star Grand Queendom. Obviously, the huge news coming out of this was that Mayu had left and that she was leaving. Obviously, at that point, it wasn't officially confirmed that she was going, but we saw news she was. Something that wasn't expected was for Maika also to come out, and this is devastating. So, unfortunately, it turns out that Maika has been dealing with an elbow issue for 3 years, which is just an insane amount of time to wrestle through that level of pain, against doctors' wishes, apparently. So, it's basically come to a head. She's going to be wrestling on the 6th of May, which is a Fukuoka show, her homecoming show, alongside Hazuki and Koguma, just after she's wrestled on the Dontaku show in Fukuoka, which we're going to be talking about in a moment. But then at that point, she is going to take an extended period of absence to get this elbow injury sorted. Now, at the moment, or at least at the time of recording, we don't know if that's going to be surgery, if that's going to be rehab, if that's going to be rest. The number at the moment that is being bandied about is anywhere between 6 months and a year. So the chances are Maika is going to miss the rest of 2025, and might not be back, till maybe just before All-Star Grand Queendom next year, if the worst prognosis comes to pass. It's a devastating moment, because in a time, if you're Stardom, you've just lost Mayu Iwatani, you've just lost Tam Nakano as well. Saya Kamitani is a heel. The one person you are looking at building this around, whilst, your Starlight Kids is still on the up, Azumi is still on the up, they're going to be there sooner rather than later, but they're not red belt champions as of yet. The one person that, we've both said would be in that All-Star Grand Queendom, the Dream Queendom main event is going to be Maika. It's going to be Maika versus Saya. And to lose Maika for this period of time, I would actually argue is more devastating to the company right now than losing Mayu. Now, Mayu is an incredible in-ring talent, generational in-ring talent. They've known for a while that Mayu is leaving. I don't think they've known for a while that Maika is as injured as she is. And I think that they knew Tam was going, they knew Mayu was going, and they have banked on Maika. So for her to have this level of injury, this severity of injury, and of course we've talked about people departing. Mina Shirakawa's gone. It looks like Tekla is on her way to AEW literally as we speak. So the roster is becoming thinner, and you would obviously want Maika to be at the top of that. So most importantly, and the first thing that I want to sort of bring into this is that we hope Maika takes the time to get better, because we've seen it before in wrestling, even very, very recently, where people have been rushed back. We've both said that we didn't think Starlight Kid was fit when she was rushed back in those house shows before Vegas. There was no real need for her to be there. I don't think May Sarah was fully fit, which is why she's had to have more time off. I don't want to see Maika rushed back. Wait until she is fully fit Wait until she is happy. Wait until she is completely recovered and she's cleared, and then bring her back. Okay. We saw it with Kazuna Tanaka, where she had a bit of time off for her back, came back, and then only succeeded in making it worse. I don't want to see that for anyone. I don't want to see that for Maika. We just hope she gets back to in-ring action as soon as she is fit and happy and it is safe.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is one. Again, when we knew that their press conference was announced, again, we talked about it on our 4-hour plus live stream, which was up. I love doing that. They're so fun. They're so interactive. We kind of made mention. Okay, we know the press conference the next day is going to be about Mayu leaving, but then when I saw it was Maika is going to be out anywhere from 6 months to a year with that elbow injury, it was like, ooh, I didn't see that. And I even made mention because a lot of people were like, oh, hit the panic button on Stardom that Mina's gone and Tekla's gone. It looks like Mayu's gone and Tam's retired. They even said in 2017 and 2018 they lost KAIRI and Io within about a year of each other, and they had that really good roster, but they had Momo Watanabe and Mayu basically leading the charge. And I'm like, as long as they have Saya Kamitani and Maika, and obviously you have Natsupoi, Izumi, Starlight Kid, and then just how great Aya Sakura and Sakura, Yuna Mizumori are, and so on and so forth. As long as they have those two, they're going to be fine. And then I must have jinxed it because it was like 8 hours later, like, yeah, Maika's going to be out for 6 months to a year. I was like, ooh. And the first thing I thought of was she's been wrestling this style and wrestled at
3 years.
Been wrestling all those great 5 stars. She's had every 5 stars she had 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, all great 5 stars. And that red belt run was unbelievable.
That's the thing.
And wrestled that great match with Hashimoto the day before, hours before, with that bad arm. So it's just like, that just goes to show you what a badass Maika is. And if that was Maika wrestling at 50, 60, 70%, when she comes back 100%, look out, world. Look out, world. She's going to go on the run of her life, and she's going to be massively over as a babyface. So it's like, wow. And again, we made mention before that it looked like obviously Tam probably winding things down and Mayu probably going over to Marigold, that the brass of Stardom, especially President Okada, was like, okay, I know I'm probably not going to have these players in. I need to push the people that are going to be here for the next few years. And he did a great, and since he's taken over the reins, there is 3 main people that he has pushed: Saya Kamitani, Tam Nakano, and Maika. Obviously, he got so much out of Saya and Tam, not only from business-wise because of ticket sales, but look at the story and look how great the matches are. Fantastic. And obviously, Maika had a great push. So you figured, okay, again, I know I'm going to have Maika. Let me push her. And that's smart. That's by no means did he bury Mayu. We talked about that. Mayu was still IWGP champion. She made it to the semifinals of the 5-star Grand Prix last year. It's not like he buried Mayu, but at the same time, it's like, let me build these other wrestlers up. And Maika was one of the projects, and rightfully so. And now not to have that person that was going to really help kind of stop the bleeding again of the Mina, the Mayu, the Tam, the Tekla, them all leaving literally back to back to back to back, and then not her. Yeah, I obviously Mayu's the icon of Stardom, but this is one that probably hurts a little bit more because she was going to be a main player. She was going to be and has been a soldier on the front line of basically taking Stardom to the next level without their main players. And now they're not going to have her. So yeah, that one does sting a little bit. But again, buddy, totally with you. Come back healthy, positive, ready to go, come back 100%, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, a year. But I can't stress enough to the biggest thank you to Maika for putting on those phenomenal matches, especially those last 2 years at not 100%. Again, that is scary because how great is Maika going to be when she comes back? Not only is her elbow going to be rest up, Rob, you have to understand, obviously that's the main thing that she's going to be healing, but I'm sure her back is bothering her. Her knees are bothering her. Her neck's bothering her. She's going to be able to have time to kind of hit the pause button and able to basically rest her entire body and her mind. So when she does come back, whether it's the end of this year or sometime next year, boy, howdy, look out, because that Maika is going to be like a best in the world Maika, and she already was. She already was and still is, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does bring into sharp relief all of the achievements that Maika has had, and almost all of them have been with this elbow injury that doctors have told her she needs to rest. Like, that's madness. This was before she won the red belt. this was, before she came runner-up in the 5-star Grand Prix in 2023. This is, well before that. So obviously we hope that she is going to take the time to recover. Unfortunately, bad things didn't end there, because Stardom, as of the 28th, hadn't announced the cards for the following day on the 29th, which was in Hiroshima, or for the 1st of May, which was in Fukuyama. Now, it soon became apparent as to why Stardom hadn't announced that. Obviously, Mayu leaving, Maika's injury. What else became apparent was just how much of the roster is currently out injured. Now, obviously, you take the long-term injuries out of this. So Amisori is currently out injured. Xena is currently out injured. Ann Kanaya is out indefinitely after undergoing surgery on her hands. That was an instance, I believe, in the dojo. And then Motoi Hamabe has also undergone surgery on her knee, so she's also out indefinitely. So there's 4 names. However, Stardom also confirmed that May Sarah is out until May 6th in Fukuoka. Hanan is out till the 6th of May in Fukuoka. Saki Kashima returned today as we record on the 1st of May, but she was out due to illness. Momo Watanabe is out indefinitely with an ankle injury, which goes some way to explaining why she was only in the Rumble for 3 minutes. Suzu Suzuki is out until at least the 1st of May, with Stardom reassessing the show after the show in Fukuyama. Kyoko Katatsu, who came back for the Rumble, she is absent, but there's no information pertaining as to why. And then on top of that, and I can't get the translation down, I think Rian is out injured as well. I can't tell if it is Rian or Rena, though I have seen a picture today of Rena holding the Artist of Stardom Championships, so I'm assuming it's Rian. It never rains, but it pours, I believe is the old saying. And unfortunately, you knew that there was going to be something to bring Stardom back down to one. They had been riding such a high in the lead up to All-Star Grand Queendom. There was always going to be something to bring the company back down to earth somewhat. And I think we all just assumed it was going to be the Mayu news. But no. Apparently everyone and their dog is out injured. It's obviously really, really poor timing. Obviously, nobody gets injured on purpose. I imagine that there was a lot of niggles heading into All-Star Grand Queendom and basically fought through the pain for the biggest show and are now taking a little bit of time off to recover. It's just unfortunate that everything has happened at the same time. Now, there is some good news. Natsuko Tora has returned to action, as has Konami, as has Saki Kashima. So there is some good news to go with that. But again, so many injuries for Stardom. Obviously, Marigold went through something very similar last year. I don't think we're going to forget 2023 in a hurry for Stardom when it seemed that every single match someone was going down injured. Obviously, we know that Natsupoi isn't 100%, although she has been wrestling on these cards, but we know that she's not 100%. Saori Anou is missing cards to do with her independent commitments. I know that Lady C is missing a date for her commitments. We know Azumi is going to be missing a whole host of dates because she is in California for New Japan Resurgence. I have been nothing but complimentary of Taro Okada because I believe his work since probably just before the 5-star Grand Prix, coming out of the 5-star Grand Prix, has been stellar. The booking has been great. The stories have been great. The shows have been great. It's going to be very interesting with him having this first real crisis post Marigold, how he's going to deal with it. Because again, you've just said, Matt, the amount of distance that he got out of the Tam Nakano and Saya Kamitani feud, Tam's gone now. We had Mayu to fall back on to have these great IWGP Women's Championship defenses. Mayu's gone now. You had a reliable person at the top of the card in Maika. Maika's gone now. And also, you've got a substantial part of your mid-card out injured as well. Obviously, we don't know when Momo Watanabe is going to be returning because this is an injury that's been lingering since the start of March. We don't know how, up to speed Natsupoi is. We don't know how up to speed Starlight Kid is. still having that strapping on the shoulder. And, we both said she wasn't moving as well as she could in that first match in Vegas. She was fine. She looked a lot better in the second match, but the first match, we both said Azumi's doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that Dragon Gate show. What are your thoughts on this? Obviously, there's no planning for stuff like this. You can plan for certain people. You can't plan for something. Who'd be a wrestling booker, eh?
Yeah. It's Rob. Do you know who Phil Jackson is by chance? Have you ever heard the name Phil Jackson?
Genuinely, I was like, the person who directed Lord of the Rings. No, that's Peter Jackson. No, I don't know who Phil Jackson is.
Phil Jackson will go down as the greatest coach in the history of the National Basketball Association. Now, I don't watch the NBA that much anymore, but I was a diehard Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls fan in the 80s and 90s. Phil Jackson, I believe, has 11 rings, 6 with the Bulls, and I think 5 with the Lakers, with the late great Kobe Bryant and 1 Shaquille O'Neal. But what had happened was, if you know the story, Michael Jordan, he won 3 championships in a row with the Bulls, retired for a year and a half, and then came back and won another 3. The reason why I bring up Phil Jackson in this sense is 3 championships in a row, Michael Jordan on his prime leaves, retires to go play baseball. It has been widely said by Phil Jackson and people around him that his best year of coaching was the year after Michael Jordan retired, because he was forced to coach better, because he didn't have the greatest athlete in the history of the world on said team. Taro Okada has to maybe read Phil Jackson's book or channel one Phil Jackson, because that's what he has to do now. At the same time, where you might be thinking, oh boy, this is time to panic. If I'm Taro Okada, and if I'm every single member on the Stardom roster, I don't care if I'm Saya Kamitani, I don't care if I'm Akira Kurigami, I'm basically saying, watch me. Because where people are like, oh my goodness, they lost so many top talent, and they did. This is opportunity for everybody on that roster. I don't care if you're the red belt champion, the white belt champion, I don't care if you're the opening match person. Watch me. Watch what I can do, because this is an opportunity for everybody to step up and to plug in the holes of Mayu leaving, of Mina leaving, of Tam retiring, of Tekla going, of Maika being out after this week. So where some people may say this might be a scary time for Stardom, this might be a very, very opportunity time for everybody on that roster, including Taro Okada. So we are going to see what's going to happen. And Rob, we have seen one show since all this has gone down, the show on the 29th. Show was packed. I don't know if you've seen it. Yep. The show was fantastic. Now, was it night one of the 5-star Grand Prix? No, it was a great, great show. Because again, you still have Kunami, you still have Natsupoi, you still have Soriano, you still have Momo Watanabe when she does come back from said ankle injury. Hopefully, it's not too bad, because she was wrestling at the shows in the States. So maybe it was just she wanted to do those commitments, come back, work Yokohama, and then heal it up again. Again, you still have Saya Kamitani. And I had this conversation with Andy Heder yesterday on the podcast. Yesterday, it was recorded. Out of all the main champions in all of wrestling, who is the most interesting? Saya Kamitani. Like, it's Saya Kamitani. You're not going to say Jon Moxley. You're not going to say John Cena. Sorry, nobody's saying Jey Uso. No offense. Obviously, Utami Hayashishita is right there, and Toni Storm as well. It just goes to show you the women are literally running pro wrestling in 2025. But I think as long as you have Saya Kamitani and you have all the other people around her, and you're going to continue to build said roster, home run all the time. But again, what's been his biggest leap of faith since he's been there? The Saya Kamitani heel turn, which, folks, if you don't know, I was adamantly against. What has been the biggest box office draw, not only for Taro Okada, but for the history of Stardom? Saya Kamitani's heel turn. Again, sold out Sumo Hall, sold out Corkin Hall twice with Saya as the champion, 7,500 people with her and Tam just this past Sunday. So at the same time, he's going to throw some stuff at the wall. Will it be home runs? No. And I know he has his detractors. I know there are a lot of loyal people to Rossi Ogawa on the fan base, and I get that. We obviously, if it wasn't for Rossi, we wouldn't have Stardom. We wouldn't have Marigold. So a lot of these wrestlers wouldn't have the careers that they have. However, you got to give Taro Okada a lot of credit for what he's been able to do. And again, if you don't think he's not working his ass off, myself and Rob were there, and we're going to get into it, folks. We're going to get into it. Not only did he almost get killed from Clark Connors in that show on Friday, he was literally carrying jackets back, literally carrying the wrestlers' jackets back on the Spark show, on the Stardom show, was literally making sure everybody was in line in the proper way, so it wasn't a fire hazard at the jam-packed meet and greets at WrestleCon for the Stardom signees. So it's, again, the guy's an absolute workhorse. I think he's going to do fine. Again, he still has a great roster behind him. At the same time, if I'm any one of these wrestlers, I'm like, let's step up. let's step up and show what we got. Because at the end of the day, we're still goddamn Stardom. Apologize for taking the Lord's name in vain. I'm just very, very passionate about my Joshi wrestling, especially on a day like today, my man. Especially on a day like today.
It's funny you should say that, actually, because we had a question by Epan in the Discord. And he said, are you worried that younger wrestlers might put too much pressure on themselves to step up and fill the shoes of the Stardom exodus and risk injury? Now, we did mention this when Marigold had these issues last year. So, it'd be silly not to mention it again. Yes, you've got Starlight Kid, you've got Azumi, you've got Saya, you've got Suzu Suzuki when she comes back. You've got all these people that are there to step up. But with the volume of injuries and everything like that, you have got a lot of people having to wrestle more and wrestle for longer. You've also got, and we've seen this multiple times in wrestling, where people will wrestle through injuries and will make things worse and will then risk basically being out for longer. So take a Starlight Kid, for example, who we know has had a shoulder injury. If she's then basically said, right, okay, we're missing a lot of top stars, we're relying on you, and she's not 100%, she's not going to stand up and say, actually, I'm injured, I need to take it easy. She's going to put full bore pedal to the metal. Now, the issue there is obviously if she makes things worse, she's going to risk more serious injury.
Like Maika. Unfortunately,
like Maika.
That's the example.
Yeah.
Sure, that we'll use. Absolutely. Okay.
Now, obviously, yes, there is going to be a lot of reliance on Saya Kamitani, on Starlight Kid, on Azumi, on Natsupoi, on Sioriano, but with that comes a risk, and it's going to be interesting to see how you mitigate that risk. Now, obviously, the risk is not as big as Marigold because Stardom have a bigger roster, which was the main issue for Marigold. For Stardom, my main concern is people not taking the time to recover. And, that's not anyone's fault. That could potentially be the wrestlers not telling anyone that they're actually hurt or as badly as they are actually hurt because they want to wrestle. Of course they do. That's why they do this. Nobody takes a chair shot to the head unless they really love the game. I'm sure Matt can attest to that. What are your sort of thoughts on that? Because that is something that Taro Okada has certainly got to take into account.
It's a great question. At the same time, to quote the late great Harley Race, this is the best sport on God's green earth. You're going to put up for it 110%. And again, I think these wrestlers, it's in the back of your mind, but when you're in your teens or 20s or late 20s, and again, you're wrestling for the biggest Joshi company in wrestling, in my opinion, the best wrestling company in the world, in Stardom, you have this opportunity. And if you don't go 110% in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, you're going to kick yourself and you're going to say, what if? You're going to say, what if? So again, I completely understand that. They're going to put too much pressure. They're going to work harder. But at the same time, let's look at the positive. What do I always say, Rob? Don't think of what can go wrong. Think of what can go right. Take an Aya Sakura, who's really on her way up, and really hope she's in the 5-star Grand Prix this year. Say she puts in more effort.
She might have to be if these injuries carry on.
Say she puts.
Death's going to be in it.
There you go. There you go. It might be maybe 3 different versions. She might be in all 4 different blocks. They do the 4 blocks again. She'll be in every one. That'll be right every way. There you go. We just fixed Stardom's problem right there. There it is. All right, folks. Try to stop, Rob. But again, I'm just using for example. Take Aya Sakura, who's really working her way up the card, and say she sees this opportunity and she puts in even more hard work, and say 4 or 5 months from now she really, really fires up. Rob, you're gonna have to hit the pause button. I have to take this phone call, buddy. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I had to. I'm a busy guy. I had to take a call. But anywho, if Aya Sakura goes and puts in 110%, and then she gets over with either a character or something else, if she's working harder, and then all of a sudden that leads her to a white belt shot or white belt win at the end of the year, then her putting in all that effort, was it worth it? Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Again, this is a more opportune time for anybody in Stardom to now raise up the prestige. So that is a great question because you can overwork yourself and get injured. Again, look at all the injuries we've been talking about in Joshi, not just this past year, Rob, really the past 2 or 3 years. I mean, if you think about it. So again, great question, but at the same time, I don't think they're looking at it like that. They're looking at an opportunity. So I think you're going to see this Stardom roster, especially over the next month or two, really raise their game. So again, May, June, right around July, I think you're going to see these wrestlers go 110%. And that's going to open the door for possibly some future 5-star Grand Prix participation. So I'm super excited for it. I'm super excited to see what wrestlers are going to really rise to the occasion. And they have the ability to do that. Again, you take an Aya, a Sayaka, a Yuna, and then it's like, I'm going to have a match with Momo. I'm going to have a match with Saya Kamitani. I'm going to have a match with Soriano. So you know those wrestlers are going to make them look even better, and they're going to work harder to get even over more. So I'm super excited for what the future of Stardom is going to bring. And again, Teru Okada is the man with the pencil. So he's going to have to really think outside the box in order for him to keep on putting in A-plus product. And again, with the exception of a few bumps in the road, he's been hitting a lot of home runs, my friend. So it's an exciting time for every single Joshi company. It really, really is.
No, I agree. I think that parallel you do with Phil Jackson is perfect. It is going to really showcase just how good a booker, Taro Okada is. Like, there's plenty of managers in soccer that with the best players in the world, you're obviously going to have the best teams. But when those best players get injured, it's now time to see what you are made of as a manager. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that brings. Just as a carry on from that, it is Rian that is out injured. It doesn't say when she is going to be back, unfortunately. Just carrying on with the Fukuoka thing with Maika. We mentioned before that Stardom participation would be happening for Wrestling Dontaku, which is this weekend as we record the 3rd and the 4th of May in the Fukuoka Kokusai Center. The Stardom participation is going to be a 6-woman tag. It's going to be Fukuoka Triple Crazy, Maika, Hazuki, and Koguma, and they're going to be taking on Starlight Kid, Azumi, and Yuna Mizumori. Obviously, Azumi will do this and then will disappear, presumably to California. This is Yuna Mizumori's first time in New Japan. And I think this is a perfect example of a slot that might not have been Yuna Mizumori's had there been other talent there. So, again, really good news for Yuna. Really excited for Yuna. She is a crowd favorite. She's a favorite here on the Stardom cast. It's going to be a great match. Obviously, it's probably going to be overshadowed by Naito's last New Japan match and Bushi's to a lesser extent, bless him. But I'm sure it will still be a great match when you look at who is in the match. It does surprise me to a certain extent that Mike is in this match, with her having just announced that she's going to have to take time off for an elbow injury. So she's doing a match she doesn't have to do. That's a bit of a strange one for me.
But supposedly the last 3 years she's been doing matches she shouldn't have to do.
Well, that's true, yeah.
And it's and if you look at the participants that's in it, and again, this is, I believe it's in her hometown. That's why she's teaming with FWC. So now it's FCCC, and then you have across the ring from Starbomb and Yuna. This is obviously, I love all the participants in this match. There's Hazuki might be my favorite wrestler in all of wrestling. I love Maika. Koguma, again, her and Hazuki, probably my favorite tag team in all of wrestling. We love Starlight Kid, my new best friend, which we'll get into, and Azumi. But I'm so happy for Yuna, because you literally have 5 main eventers and somebody that can be a main eventer come the end of the year in Yuna. This is a big opportunity for Yuna Mizumori, and I'm super excited for it. And we've seen on these proper New Japan shows, when the Stardom wrestlers are on and they get the proper time to tell their story, they have one of, if not the best matches on the entire card. Remember at the New Beginning last year with Mina and Mayu. That was the best match of the entire show. I don't think anybody will debate that. And I think you'll see it here as well. Rob, real quick, who is Naito's last match against? Because it's escaping me. I know I've seen it. It's escaping me.
It's a 8-man. I think it's Naito, Bushi, Shingo, and Hiromu. And I think they're taking on Ishii, Takamichinoku, Taichi, Ishii, Takamichinoku. And who's the 4th? Is it Master Wato, maybe? I can't remember who the other one is, but it's a multi-man anyway. So and then I believe, because we don't get enough press conferences, I believe Naito is holding another press conference the day after Wrestling Dontaku. So we might get another wrestling company. Who knows?
Naito's going to Marigold. Can you imagine him versus Gigaton?
Oh my God, that's what we want to see. Book it, Rossi. Just sort of piggybacking onto Hazuki, she will be taking part, as I mentioned before, at the Catch the Wave tournament, which is Pro Wrestling Wave's annual round-robin tournament. Obviously, last year, Saya Kamitani and Rani Yagami were the Stardom participants, Saya Kamitani going on to win the whole thing, and then the Regina the Wave Championship as well. The full blocks have been announced. 36 competitors in this year's tournament, running from the 4th of May all the way through to July 21st. With there being 36 competitors and with there being 9 blocks, they've each been named after a planet. So there you go. Hazuki is in the Mercury block. She will be taking on former Regina the Wave champion Yuki Miyazaki, Nanami, and Rina Amakura, who Stardom fans might remember as a part of Lollipop in the Triangle Derby of 2023. We have also got Rani Yagami, who makes a return to the tournament. She's in the Saturn block. She will take on Tei Honma, Miyuki Takase, and Yura Suzuki. And then last but certainly not least, Akira Kuragani is in the Uranus block. Don't laugh, Rob. You're better than that. Come on. And she will be taking... Come on, stop it. I'm better than
that. Even some butthead over here.
Do you know what? I've even practiced saying this today because I knew I'd laugh. So, yeah, Akira Kuragani has got Kakero Sekiguchi, Mari Manji, and Itsuki Aoki, who, of course, you might remember as a part of I know, bloody hell, it's already warm here. But yes, she will be taking on Itsuki Aoki. So some really good matchups there. The full card for the opening night on May 4th in Korakuen has also been announced. Hazuki and Akira Kuragani are not on that card. Hazuki, because obviously she's at Wrestling Dontaku. But Rani Yagami is going to be taking on Tei Honma at Korakuen Hall. So keep an eye out for that, because I'm sure that's going to be a great match. Just quickly, final thing I just want to touch on before we finally get on to Las Vegas. We've been recording for an hour and 15 minutes, I think, now. But we will get to Vegas. The final thing that I just want to announce, and with it being a Comic-Con, I know that Matt is big into his Comic-Cons. We have got the announcement of the Stardom match at Osaka Comic-Con. This takes place tomorrow as we record 2nd of the 5th. And it's going to be God's Eye, Syuri Tomoka Inaba, pardon me, who might be one of those people we are talking about as someone who needs to step up. And Rani Yagami, they are going to be taking on the hate team of Natsuko Tora, Rina, and Azusa Inaba. Rina, another one who I imagine will be pushed to new levels. But yes, that is your match for Osaka Comic-Con. And Matt, finally, brother, finally, we are done with the news. And we move instead to Las Vegas, baby.
Which you've all been waiting. So basically, we just gave you an hour plus appetizer. Again, we had a lot of news to cover. I'm sure a lot of a lot of people did want us to talk about that. But this is literally, as long as I've been doing this podcast, I can't even tell you how many people have asked, when are you guys going to do it? Are you guys going to do one every other day? And I think a lot of it has to do with just the social media interaction that we have with our friends and family at the Stardom Cast. Obviously, we've seen the pictures with Giulia and Io and KAIRI and Mina and Megan Bain and Rob's new best friend, Gabe Kidd, my new best friend, Starlight Kid. We are going to talk about it right here, right now. I am so excited for it. Again, folks, you asked for it. Here it comes. Like a Kiss says, you wanted the best, you got the best. Or in this case, the okayest. Here we go, buddy.
You wanted average? Well, we got you average. Yeah, so obviously it all started on the Tuesday for us. We flew out Tuesday, which was lovely for the first part of the flight. So we flew Aer Lingus, who were great. I'm going to be so complimentary of Aer Lingus. They were fantastic. JetBlue can do one. They were awful. So we flew into JFK, had a big layover in JFK, and then we... now, I don't want to sound like I'm being privileged, but we just had to pay for everything on this flight. Like nothing came for free. Obviously, we got a drink, which was great, and we got a bag of something. I can't remember what it was, but there was no hot food. Wasn't even provided. And if it was, we had to pay for it. There was no headphones for the in-flight entertainment. Turns out, by the way, you can watch NASCAR without headphones. So just FYI. There was just nothing, and it felt very much like nobody really cared. So we landed at about 1 a.m. I think Vegas time, which is 8 hours 8 hours behind the UK. So we were jet lagged to hell when we got to the hotel. But then, obviously, the next day, Mr. Matt Turner returned, landed, and we went to Dragon Gate. How was your journey? Because I don't think we actually talked about the journeys too much, did we?
No, mine was, I think we left 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. I forget. Again, Amber's just, I travel quite a bit for work and I have to book my own travel, which I don't like. But my wife, because she's so on time on everything, and again, I would say all the time she should be a travel agent. Everything was packed. We were good to go, ready to go, loaded up the car. We drove to an airport parking right outside Philadelphia. That then I went to go use the bathroom, and it was very sketchy, very sketchy. And I was like, "You told them, you don't want to use that." But we took the shuttle to the airport, got into the airport, really no problem. We weren't really sure how heavy our suitcases were, because if it's over 50 pounds, they charge you $150. I will get into the end of when we returned, when we were leaving.
God.
But
Jesus.
Really not many issues. It was about a 2-hour flight from Philadelphia to Chicago. We had about a 45-minute layover in Chicago, which was great because we weren't waiting that long. But I was still a little nervous in case there was some sort of delay. We would have missed our connecting flight. We got on the plane to go to Chicago to Las Vegas, and then they said the air conditioning unit was off, so there was going to be a delay. And everybody on the plane was like, "Oh," and I was my usual Matt Turner stuff, like, "I'm on vacation. I don't have to be anywhere until 9 o'clock tonight at Dragon Gate. I'm good to go. Just get me there safe. Just get me there safe." So, and then what they had to do is, because they opened up the door to have the technician come in, they had to redo the safety instructions, and everybody was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Who cares if there's a test on this? I'm gonna know." And I'm I might have been the only person on the plane was like, "I don't."
Frustratingly positive.
Everybody was so frustrated. I was just like, "I don't care. I'm gonna watch." The plane had free Wi-Fi, which again, my wife booked everything and she knew how to do everything. So I was watching old episodes of How I Met Your Mother, and I was watching this. I haven't seen that in a while. Now I know why it's not on network TV anymore, because I forgot how almost R-rated said show is. I did watch a docuseries on Pete Rose, who holds the all-time hit record for Major League Baseball and is not in the Hall of Fame because he bet on baseball, but he's in the WWE Hall of Fame, by the way, because Kane would always tombstone him.
I remember.
Yes. Mayu Iwatani's father in 6 months, Mayu Kane. Anyway, so no problem with that. I think I texted you. I know you were sleeping. I said, "Hey, we're on the plane. I'll text you in about 3-4 hours once we land." And then I text you again. I said, "I know you're sleeping, but when you wake up, it's going to be about an hour difference," because I didn't want you to worry. But like Matt said, he's supposed to fly in at this time. Why is he an hour late? And obviously, if you watch the news, the aviation going on in the world, been a little weird. So I didn't want you to worry. Again, my father gene kicked in. As soon as the plane landed, I text you, and then you asked me if I was okay. I said, "I'm just hungry," because you got to fuel the Matt Turner machine. That's the one thing you need to know. You have to fuel this machine in order for me to go in the hotel. Obviously, we stayed in the same hotel, which was great because we were able to meet. And the girls pretty much, we went to dinner right there in the hotel. I had a nice little Italian dinner. That was nice. We had
so expensive.
Yeah, everything was really expensive. And I'm going to say this first and foremost and get this out of this way. Pretty much everything, the entire trip was covered on the money we make on this podcast. I'm not going to get into the finances. That's nobody's business but mine, yours, and I guess now Amber's, because I think she's the CEO and she did our taxes. So I've had a few people over the last few months saying, "I hope you guys get paid on the podcast," because I've listened to 8 ads on the podcast. Yes, folks, that's how we get paid. And if you do not want to hear the ads, $1 a month.
$1 a month. Solitary dollar.
But in all seriousness, and again, I'm just going to get this out of the way, because I cannot say thank you enough to everybody that listens to this podcast, because we had 4 flights to and from, hotel room for 4 people, all the tickets, all the meet and greets, all the Ubers, which I forgot until I looked at my credit card statement. I was like, why is this so expensive? Oh yeah, we had an Uber every single day to get around to Vegas. Everything was majority covered by the money we made on this podcast over the last year. And we cannot say thank you enough because it's absolutely insane. Everything that we did, and we barely spent anything out of our own personal pockets. So again, thank you to everybody because it was just insane. So yes, it was. The dinner there was pretty expensive, and Rob got to get a little peek into my personal world. Whenever me and Amber go out for dinner, we guess the amount on the check. And we played that game every single meal, and I think Amber won every single one except one because she's a genius.
She was drunk.
She was drunk one night, and that's the first time she's been drunk in 15 years.
And that's the night she lost.
Oh, that's
there
why
you go.
she
See, there's reasons.
That's why she doesn't drink, because she's not in her full force there.
Loses the check game.
Yeah, that's it. Again, my wife will have a beer.
Mistakes.
Yes, my wife will have a drink every now and again. The one night she got buzzed, we'll get into it. But the final night that we were there, she went she pulled a little Judas Priest and hell bent for leather. I'll tell you that. But yeah. So then we had a nice little Italian dinner. The girls went to bed, and myself and Rob went to Dragon Gate. So we go to the. Oh, there we go. Oh. We go to the Pearl at the Palms to and before that, I do want to make mention my good friend Andrew Jacoby, who I met 13 years ago, waiting in line to meet George St. Pierre at a UFC fight. This was a few months before I got married. This is how long ago this was. So I wind up was in this line, we were waiting, and you know me, I can make a friend with the devil. So can this guy. We wind up chatting. We all have the same interests. He trains professional fighters for a living. At the time, I was wrestling all the time, so we were kind of going back and forth with different nutrition and different certain things. We wind up exchanging numbers, and over 13 years, we kept in touch. Well, sure enough, at the end of last year, I made mention, I'm going to Vegas for WrestleMania. And he said, buy me a ticket for WrestleMania Sunday. So he was going to tag along. So me and you were going to the Pearl, and he said, hey, and I sent him my itinerary. He's like, I'm going to be at the Pearl in 20 or 30 minutes. Let's meet up for a drink. Okay. So me and you go to the Pearl at the Palms for the Dragon Gate show. We get there a few hours early. And I even said to you, I said, Rob, I haven't seen this guy in 13 years. I have no idea what he looks like. And all of a sudden, as I said that, I hear in my ear, hey, is this the line to meet GSP? And there was my buddy. So we went in, had a drink. He gave us some really good business advice. So we almost had like a little mini business meeting there. And then we went to I went to go use the restroom. And once again, for the second year in a row, I'm in the restroom and somebody noticed me. And it was one of our good friends, John, who hung out with us a majority of the weekend, which was great. It was great.
Big up, John.
Yeah, he even said he's like, oh, is Rob next to you? Are you with Rob? And I was like, literally, as soon as we get out, he's holding our spot in line. So that was really nice. He bought us a drink, which I thought was terrific. A drink that we didn't need because we had we were running on little sleep and jet lag, but not going to say no to a free drink from a friend and a fan of the show. So then he sat with us for the Dragon Gate show. So I believe it was
shout out for his awesome Starlight Kid hat as well.
Yeah, and jersey. He had the Starlight Kid jersey.
And jersey, yes, I forgot about that.
So I believe the Dragon Gate show starts, or it's getting ready to start, and Marcus Mathers, who is a WWID prospect, was on a lot of these said shows. I broke in independence around 20 years ago, the same time of his dad. And I remember when his dad would take him to these shows when he was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they would bring out crash pads, and he'd be literally doing like swantons off the top rope onto the crash pads. So I've known Marcus since he was a little kid. So I just happened to bump into Mark there. I was like, wow. So it was nice. I got to catch up with him. Literally, as I'm talking to him, Jordan Castle came over to us, who we gave him a bunch of notes for the Stardom shows, and has been nothing but complimentary to our work, and has done nothing but put us over. And then we bumped into his dad came up to us and said thank you. So that was really cool. The Dragon Gate show starts. I believe the Zumi and Starlight Kid versus Konami tour match was match 2.
It was.
As they came out, me, you, and John all stood up, and we gave a standing ovation. And then Starlight Kid tapped the Zumi on the shoulder and pointed over to us, and they waved to us. And I thought they were just waving because we were obviously the loudest and obviously the most passionate obnoxious and somewhat drunk. We obviously were the biggest Stardom fans in there. That's what I thought, but the plot will thicken when we get to the meet and greet. So I was like, oh, Starlight Kid just tapped Azumi on the shoulder and pointed to us because we were the ones standing, chanting Azumi and Starlight Kid. But they went in on a really good match with Konami and Tora. Again, you can tell Starlight Kid's shoulder was bothering her a little, but at the same time, she still gave it everything that she got. But she wasn't doing the Asai moonsaults, nothing crazy like that. But they still put on a really, really good match. And then there was that semi-main event where it was Rich Swann and Willie Mack versus, geez, Rob, I forget who they wrestled.
It was Rich Swann and Willie Max. I've got all the notes here. Against Ben Kane, Hio, and the Garbage Pail Kids, which was Alec Price and Jimmy Lloyd. Fantastic match. Fantastic.
That was great. That was the best match of said show. So
that by a mile.
I thought that was really a really good day one. Again, most important thing is we got there safe. We had a nice dinner. The girls went out to go do their thing. Met up with a buddy of mine. We went to the Dragon Gate show again, and the theater at the Pearl at the Palms was absolutely magnificent. Not a bad seat in the house. It's old school theater where kind of rises up, so you can see everything. It was the stage. Everything was done beautiful. It was nice that we got to meet a fan of ours that obviously turned into a friend. And John, I know John's listening. And hi, John, and thank you again for the drink, and thanks for making our Vegas experience somehow even better than what it was, because I thought he was terrific. It was good bumping into, my buddy Mark Angel, again, Marcus Mathers' dad, and then Jordan. So it was like a really good first night as we bumped into a whole bunch of people. Everybody said hi, took a lot of pictures with a lot of people. So that was a pretty good night one, my friend.
It was. I will say that Shun Skywalker might be the most effective heel in the history of the world, because I left this show absolutely despising that man. Now, bearing in mind I was 6 pints deep at this point, and a Jack and Coke, because I'd obviously been having a couple of drinks before Matt arrived, and I had a couple at the venue because obviously friend of the show, John. But I can honestly say that main event, which was Paradox against Zebrats, was, I don't know whether it was just because the jet lag was kicking in. It might be because of that, and that might have colored my opinion of it. But Shun Skywalker, who I know is a tremendous wrestler, has put on one of my favorite Dragon Gate matches of all time against, was it against Pac? I think it was against Pac. But all he did was make a noise, like literally the same noise over and over and over again. And I think I left with you at the end of the show, and I was like, I will be happy if I never hear that noise ever again, because I'm going to hear that in my nightmares for the rest of my life. It was a bit of a slow main event compared to the fantastic 3-way that we'd just seen. Obviously, Ultimo Dragon gain a massive standing ovation, was really, really cool. Obviously, didn't do a lot because he doesn't need to, because he gets massive ovations for just being there. And as you mentioned, that Casey versus Reese Mathers show, that match that opened the show, I thought was really good as well. So that's Wednesday out of the way, and then we moved on to what I like to call the how can I put this?
Stardom Cast Marathon. Yeah,
it was absolute carnage. So we knew that the Thursday was going to be a tough day. Now, bearing in mind a little bit of background, Kirsty has been to 2 wrestling shows ever. The first show she went to was a WWE house show. It was at the O2, where we're also going again. Apparently, she's caught the bug. We're going to Forbidden Door. She went to it, and it was honestly the worst experience of her entire life. We left halfway through the main event, which was Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in a tables match. And then she went to the Noah versus Progress UK tour, which she enjoyed a little bit more. So bearing in mind that those are her 2 wrestling experiences, we then expected her to do 4 consecutive shows on the same day.
And you're adding this guy in too. You're adding this guy in too, yeah.
You are adding the man version of the Energizer Bunny over there. No, she was really excited. And obviously we started with the first show, which was Stardom American Dream in Sin City, which was at the Silverton Lodge and Casino. And this was another one, Matt, that was really sort of interesting venue, because obviously we've been to the Pearl, which again we'll talk about later with the rest of the collective shows. I thought was an absolutely gorgeous arena when you compare to where they ran in Philadelphia. No disrespect to Philadelphia, but it was literally just a room, like a boardroom with a ring in it, wasn't it, if you remember? But this was like a proper theatre. It was gorgeous. And then you had this one, which was obviously very themed around your hunting and stuff like that. So you've got antlers hanging from the ceiling and things like that, which was a little bit odd. And the way that the venue was set out and where we were sat for both Stardom and not as much Spark Joshi, but definitely the Stardom show, we could hear every single word of commentary, which was wild. But yeah, do carry on.
Yeah, so this was at the Silverton Casino, and the one thing, as soon as we walked in, my wife popped because this is the casino where the mermaids swim. So she was all about that, because in this building, we had the Stardom show. We had to leave for about 20, 30 minutes so they can set up for the meet and greet. And then we had the Spark show. So we were in this venue quite a bit. The one thing I will say, and I want to get this out of the way because I know it's going to pop Rob, is they played the same 25-second preview for All-Star Grand Queendom over and over and over again. And Rob, I failed to mention on our 4+ hour episode that we the stream is when we did the live stream on Sunday. They played so many different video packages before the show and before the in between the pre-show and the main show. Like, why didn't we have just a snippet of that instead of the same 25 to 26 second package over and over and over, to the point where I thought Rob literally 360'd. He got to a point where he got so annoyed. And then because it played so much, it almost became a running joke. Like, we wound up popping ourselves.
Honestly, it was just 3 matches that they were advertising. The main event, Starlight Kid and Azumi and Mayu and Syuri. But the problem was that the entire package ended with Starlight Kid yelling something. And because I'm not very good with my Japanese, I don't know what she was yelling. But the problem was, it's all I could hear because it was how every single video package ended. Now, the year before in Philly, they just had the screens on the outside that were playing a looped video for All-Star Grand Queendom. And then when you went into the ECW arena, there was just music and the sort of Tron with Stardom on it. If they'd have done that here, that'd have been great. But this show started at 12 and we got into the venue at 25 past 11. Now, that is an ungodly amount of that video package to hear. However, that being said, it was really cool because this was a show that we sponsored. So we were on the big Tron. I know that we were on the Triller TV pay-per-view. We were on the ring canvas. That was really, really cool and a really, really humbling moment. Less humbling when whoever was operating the video feed and the music didn't quite know how to operate the volume because it took until probably the fourth match, before they got the stuff right. And what is quite funny, and I'll throw to you in a minute, Matt, is that the bloke who's doing the announcing had spent the entirety of that 35 minutes preceding the first bell telling us over and over and over again in no uncertain terms that there would not be a break. There would not be an interval. Okay, if you want merch, get it now or get it at the end. So we've got to clear everybody out to sort the meet and greets. Okay, we're on a tight schedule. There will be no interval. Okay, no interval. Interval, nada. We will not have one. Sure enough, 3 matches in, we are having an impromptu interval, and there was about a 15-minute interval where presumably someone was getting read the Riot Act or was given a crash course on how to operate the volume control, because we had Ram coming out to Azumi's Tron. No, we had Ram coming out to Azumi's music and her own Tron. We had Unagi coming out to the Tron but no music. We had someone whose music was turned down for a promo and then they forgot to turn it back up. The wrestling itself was great. Like, considering this show and the show in Neon City was effectively just a house show with a load of tag team matches, the shows were really, really solid and had 2 really, really good main events. I can't complain, really, because we knew what we were getting with who came over. And ultimately, I think this surpassed expectations because it was really fun. The crowd was hot. And again, we met quite a few people. Obviously, Andy, big friend of the show. Andy, who was also on the live stream, who we spent a lot of time with. Justin, who we spent a lot of time with at WrestleCon. We met Harold. We met a couple of people from Japan, a couple of people from Germany,
Finland. Yeah,
Finland.
It was insane. Yeah, it was insane.
It was mad. So thank you to everyone that came up and said hello. Bit unnerving when people turn around and go, "I'd know that voice anywhere." And it's, oh, okay. Andy did say that he could hear me from across the venue. So I don't know if that was a compliment or an insult. But there we go.
I do want to shout out I believe he was the ring announcer. Obviously I talked to CB who runs Spark and did help with booking the building and a lot of the getting a lot of the visas over for these wrestlers. So I did hit her up very much like with Jordan. Once we knew Jordan was doing the commentary for the Friday show, I said, hey, if you need help with notes, let me know. Obviously Rob does 99% of the notes. I just look over it and may tell him to add a thing or two. But again, Rob is the note master, hence the notes that the stats he put for Mayu the other day on Twitter. So I reached out to CB and I said, hey, who's doing the commentary? Do they need notes for Stardom? Because we want to help out. Again, we always say at the end of the day, we just want as many people watching Stardom and Marigold as possible because they are literally the best wrestling in the world. So that's our goal. Obviously we're not on commentary, but we can help out with our knowledge that we have for Stardom and Marigold. So I did reach out. The gentleman's name, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, is Trevin Adams. Trevin actually hit me up the other day. He did thank me for the notes a day or so after, and then he hit me up the other day to say thank you again. And from what I understand for the conversations, me and him been emailing each other back quite a bit the last few days, is that intermission was not on. Obviously, he said there's no intermission, there's no intermission, there's no intermission, and then there was an intermission. It wasn't an impromptu thing. So like the poor guy, this is the hand he was dealt. He was probably told from the people running the show, you have to hammer in their heads that there's not an intermission. Great, got it. You got it? Yeah, no problem. So he said over and over and over again, and then they probably went up to him like, you got to tell him there's an intermission. And he did it the best way possible. He's very comedic about it.
Absolutely. It wasn't his fault, to be fair.
It wasn't his fault. But my guess is, and I didn't dig because I didn't ask, my guess it was probably to get the sound and the video up because it was kind of and the fans didn't boo. We were clapping along. We were all they took a negative and made it into a positive. But no, and again, thanks to Trevin, who went out of his way to reach out again for a second time just to say how thankful for he was giving the notes. He did ask for some feedback on the commentary. We didn't get a chance to watch this show back yet on Triller TV. When I get a chance to, I was thinking about doing this weekend, but again, it's Golden Week, so I may not get to it. Well, eventually I will, and I will give him some feedback. But again, huge thank you to all of the fans because we did have a decent amount when we were in Philly of people coming up to us for pictures, Rob autographing his books, for autograph stuff like that. And I even told Amber, I said, there's going to be a handful of fans at said show, just to kind of give you an idea. When we left the venue that day to go over to Bloodsport, she was like, oh my God. Like, not only do we get people from Jacksonville and Atlanta and California and Philadelphia and all over the United States, but partner, you said it, like Japan, Finland, Germany. I mean, it was absolutely insane. It was just like, I think my wife's been with me for 15 years. And even just between that and seeing like 60,000 people in Allegiant Stadium for WrestleMania, I don't think she really grasps how big professional wrestling is and is going to be just because of, the voice that we have. And again, it's humbling having people say, or using Google Translate to like kind of talk to us or talk to us in broken English because English isn't their main language, how much time they spent listening to us. I mean, it's crazy because at the end of the day, I'm just like a bumbling idiot from Old Forge, Pennsylvania that can barely tie his shoes. So, and Rob is probably saying the same thing, just a taller, handsome idiot from Stoke, England that can barely tie his shoes. It's just, we just seem to know how to make this work. And we're just so grateful for the fan base we have. And it was so funny because I mentioned all the time on this podcast how much my wife dislikes one Tam Nakano, literally to the point where it's like a real fun segment. And it might have been John, but it was one of our listeners told my wife, goes, at least Tam's not here. And my wife looked at me. I was like, we mention you all the time on the podcast. So my wife kind of had her fan base as well from the anti-Tam fans, which I thought was funny. But then it was somebody told us, and my wife just happened to be an earshot of listening to it. Somebody said, I looked at my Spotify Wrap the other day. He goes, I have over 5,000 hours listened to you guys in 2024. And like, we were humbled on that. My wife goes, that's on you. Like, you did that to you. Which I thought was funny because my wife's comedic timing is always really funny. But again, I thought that was great. Again, we had so many people that came up to us And not only that, again, we were on sponsoring the shows at the meet. We were on the video wall here. Obviously, I know Jordan said he gave us a shout out, which again, I didn't get a chance to listen to. And I know Trevin gave us a shout out as well. So again, thank you for that, because it just, again, at the end of the day, we're all trying to help people watch the best wrestling in the world. That's not WWE. That's not AEW. And I love those companies. But to me, the best wrestling in the world, it's Stardom, and Marigold is right there as well. So we were happy to help. And again, just blown away by the fan base we have, again, not just in the States, but all over the world. It was just absolutely crazy. And it was very humbling.
Yeah, it really was. And obviously, big shout out to everyone that came to us. Tam Disciple as well, who seemed to be in the queue 1 or 2 in front of us for most shows. But yeah, I thought that, again, just looking back at the show, there was some really good moments. Obviously, the main moment was Maika and Tekla, which was possibly Tekla's best singles match in Stardom in a good long while. I thought her and Maika had really good chemistry. We obviously had the DDM moment and then the hug at the end. And also the Hanan, Sayurida, Hazuki, and Kelsey Heather match. I think of all the American talent on the shows, Kelsey Heather impressed. Obviously, she would go on to have Syuri and be murdered by Syuri on the Friday show, but I thought she really impressed. I was impressed with Jody Threat, who I know is on TNA. Her teaming with Suzu Suzuki, I thought she was really good. And another one was obviously Maya World, who seemed to be on every single show. I thought her performance was really good. Johnny Robbie as well in the semi-main of the Stardom show and in the main event of Marvelous. I thought they were all really, really good. Matt, sort of notes, favorite matches. What were your sort of thoughts on this before we move on to Spot Joshi, Lady Luck?
Yeah, and just for the, we're kind of just going to kind of run through these shows. Once these shows are available on Stardom World, or I do watch them on Triller TV, because I don't think Andy's seen them yet, I think we're going to go back and watch them and then release them kind of as a bonus episode, just for the sake of time, because this is going to be another long episode. But again, I liked how on all these shows, Azumi and Starlight Kid were across the ring from each other, a week before their big match. I made mention it before, and I'm going to make it mentioned again. I was wrong on this one with Suzu having those 2 X's. We thought it was going to be Jody Threat because they worked really well together, and they had a handshake down too, Rob. They had a handshake down as well. So like, ooh, maybe it's going to be Jody Threat. But no, I thought the matches were great. Obviously, Wingori versus Kelsey Heather and Hazuki. That was a phenomenal match. And I looked over at you and I was like, this is a preview what we're going to get in Yokohama. This is going to be one of the best tag matches in Stardom history. And obviously, it clearly was, because that match was an absolute banger. But I agree. Like, all the matches were great. They were all solid. But the best match was the main event with Maika and Tekla. They went out of their way to have a really great match. And then they had the DDM thing at the end when Tekla said, Maika, you're cool, but you're a lot cooler when you're in DDM. I thought that was a really great spot. All the wrestlers were over. Tora, Hazuki, Saida, obviously Momo Watanabe. I don't think anybody can deny the most over Stardom wrestler in all these shows we're going to talk about, which is absolutely insane. I thought she was terrific. And then before we get to the next show, though, Rob, we do need to talk about the meet and greet we did have as well, because the meet and greet was beforehand. But before that, and again, it's going to lead into a story later. Again, we noticed on the Tron, our logo was there because we were sponsoring. Like, oh, that's great. So we went and got pictures taken by the Tron. And then there were 2 gentlemen, and I forget their names, and I apologize because I know that they listened to the show that we talked to, and they said, hey, Bozilla and her dad were sitting right over here, and they pointed to the logo underneath the American Dream in Sin City banner that was on the Tron, and they started talking about the Stardom cast. So clearly they listened to the Stardom cast and the Marigold Standard. And I was like, oh, okay. And I go, well, what was their like response? Were they like, oh, those guys from the Stardom cast? Like, no, they really seemed like they enjoyed the show. Because I was like, we'd go out of our way to put everybody over. We don't try to dwell on the negative on anything. I mean, every now and again we have to touch upon it. And obviously we're big fans of Bozilla. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, we didn't even notice. I went and told you. I was like, supposedly Bozilla and her dad, Ulf Herman, again, big fan of ECW. He was a mainstay in ECW towards the last year or two. It's like, supposedly they listen to the podcast and they really like it. So I'm like, boy, what a role we're on here, buddy, because this is the first show. So many people from across the world came over to us to take pictures with us. Really great show that we did get to see. And then we find out that Ulf Herman and Bozilla listen to the podcast. I'm like, wow, this is a really good day one. Again, they clear everything out. And then we go and get a quick drink over our quick bite to eat. We went to Johnny Rockets, which is kind of an old 50s chain that they kind of, redid for burgers. We did that. We pieced out. And then, Rob, we headed on our way over to the autograph session, which all the autograph sessions were, all the lines were long. But you know who had the longest, my friend? One Starlight Kid. Her queue was massive.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Momo Watanabe being the most over on the roster. She was absolutely, in terms of reaction, very, very closely followed by Hazuki, who, again, was massively over. But Starlight Kid, her line was huge. It really, really was. And it didn't really go down at all. And we were able to get, the Spark Joshi autograph signings, there was Starlight Kid, Azumi, Hazuki, Momo, and Syuri. And we were able to get everyone else's and then get to Starlight Kid afterwards. But it was Ace, me, and Hazuki, because obviously Hazuki, one of our favorite wrestlers. It was someone who I was very, very excited to meet alongside Hanan and Sayurida, who we'd meet later on in the week. But it was Hazuki I was desperate to meet, and she was absolutely lovely. We wore the Hazuki mode activated shirts that you can find now in our merch store in the link below, and she loved them. And I know that Matt gave her stickers, because always the salesman, always on, always hustling. Is
I will say that I missed the trick, because somebody said, because she was like, I was pointing at your shirt and she liked the shirt, and then she said, I wanted one. She goes, I would like a shirt. And somebody pointed out, why didn't you just take your shirt off and give it to her? I was like, oh my God. Or take down, like, you get a P.O. box or something. Like, always the salesman I am, because I had the business cards and the Stardom Cast stickers and the Hazuki mode stickers. And I gave them all those, and she popped huge for them. And I was like, how did I not pick up on that? How did I not pick up on either getting an address or getting some sort of contact info? And I understand you don't want to give somebody your contact information, but a P.O. box or somewhere where I can send shirt, because she really, really wanted one. Or even somebody said, why don't you just take the one off that you were wearing? I was like, that would have been something that I definitely would do, because I'm absolutely insane. But yeah, she was great. And again, we know from last year, and they even said this year, they're only going to be signing the 8x10s that they have. So we knew we had a really good strategy. We wanted to meet Hazuki first, because she was the only one at Spark that we didn't meet from last year. And again, we already had all the autograph tickets, so we were going to meet everybody anyway. We met Hazuki, and then we went to Shuri, we went to Momo Watanabe, and then we went to Azumi. Now there was somebody in front of Azumi that had like the little Polaroids, and she brought them in. Azumi signed them, and I looked over at you and I said, I thought they were only supposed to sign the 8x10s. And you looked at me and you said, Matt, what do you always tell me? If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Shout out to my trainer, CM Punk, because he always told me, Matt, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And I always say I always say that is how I met my wife. So if it wasn't for CM Punk, I would have never met my wife, because I laid eyes on that beauty. I'm like, there's no way she's gonna go out with a guy like this. However, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And 15 years later, she regrets it. But regardless, I was like, you know what, Rob, you're right. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Now, I did bring a couple things to get signed in the off chance that this thing happens. My main thing I wanted to get signed is my daughter's artwork. Again, I know people have seen it before, but it's behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, I have a beautiful Aphrodite picture that she did, that she has Utami signed. I have two great Mercedes Monet things that she had signed. One in the Hana Kimura gear, and one when she was came out as Black Tiger at All-Star Grand Queen of 2023. I have this beautiful portrait that she did with Azumi on one side and Starlight Kid on the other. And I said, oh boy, if I can get this signed, this will be great. So put up to Azumi. She looked at me. She shook her head and she goes, I know who you are. Signed it. Now, I thought she was just going to sign that, but then she signed the portrait as well, which I didn't. I'm glad I had that. And I was like, oh, and she was right next to Starlight Kid. So I'm like, okay, if she signed it, probably going to have Starlight Kid. It's probably an easy shout to get Starlight Kid to sign it. She signs it, signs the 8x10. We get in Starlight Kid's line. She was the last one. Again, the largest line. We get to Starlight Kid, looks and she goes, I know you. I know you from podcasts. I said, yes. I said, can you sign this? And she goes, no, only 8x10. And I go, Azumi, because she was right next to her. I said, Azumi signed it. She looked at Azumi and she goes, sign. And she goes, shh, don't tell anyone. So sorry if I'm getting Starlight Kid in any trouble. If Starlight Kid drops the white belt to Hanako, it's my fault. She goes, shh, don't tell anyone. And then so she signed it. And then she grabbed the 8x10 and she goes, your name. I forget your name. And she already had the M. She knew it began with an M. I go, Matt. She's like, yes, Matt. I was like, oh, thank you so much. Took the picture and she goes, podcast partner. And I go, right behind me. And she goes, oh, because obviously everyone knows Rob's like a foot taller than me. Not really, but it's just a funny thing. So it was really cool that a Zoom. And again, when I talked about Dragon Gate a little bit ago, I thought they were waving at us because we were making the most noise. Apparently they know us from the show, which is really cool because they're two of the best wrestlers in the best wrestling company. And even cooler for me is that I got my daughter's artwork signed by Azumi and Starlight Kid on the one portrait. And I put pictures up on social media. If you haven't seen it yet and want to see it, you can email me at thestardomcast22@gmail.com. We'll give that out a little bit later, but absolutely loved it. It's one of probably my favorite things that I brought back for me from Las Vegas. But the meet and greet was great. Everybody was terrific. Hazuki wanted a shirt. And again, it was just so great having that artwork signed. The fact that Azumi and Starlight Kid know who we are and Bozilla knows who we are. We were like really taken aback by that. We thought that was absolutely fantastic. And then we left to go get the girls. They were very upset because they went to go see the Swimming with the Mermaids, and they said it wasn't that good. It wasn't that good.
Well, yeah, because apparently the mermaid had the audacity to want to breathe, so she had a breathing tube, and it apparently ruined the illusion. It's like, yeah, but she's not a real mermaid. So yeah, obviously then we went.
Hilarious.
I'm very, very annoyed by this. Obviously, we then went on to Spot Joshi, the Lady Luck show. I thought this was a really, really good show. Now, I will call out Kirsty at this point because she was flagging by this point. The jet lag was very real for her. And whereas I'm just going to power through, I'll be fine. Because she was like, no, I'm really struggling at the moment. And it got to, I believe, the semi-main event of this show, which was Saki and Danny Mo, which was really good. And Kirsty was like, I'm going to have to find somewhere to just go and sit. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Do you want me to come with you? No, it's absolutely fine. I spied a comfy sofa. And it turns out Kirsty went and napped in the reception of a casino whilst we were watching Spark Joshi. So that was her experience. She made 1.5 of the 4 shows because she went home or went back to the hotel to go to bed after this show before we went to Bloodsport. So yeah, she was absolutely knackered, but I actually really enjoyed the show. I thought this show was really good. None of the technical difficulties that we had with the Stardom show, apparently that interval did what it needed to do. Couple of standout matches. The main event, Hazuki versus Lena Cross, was one of my favorite matches of the entire week. Thought it was really well done. Hazuki is an underdog babyface against this destroyer in Lena Cross was fantastic. I thought Saki and Danny Mo was really good, just maybe went a touch too long. And I thought Ver Vixen and Ram Kaichao was another really good match. Standout of the show, though, aside from obviously Hazuki, Jada Stone. I thought Jada Stone, who teamed with Starlight Kid against Suri and Zoe Lucas, who made her return, well, technically, to a Stardom ring. But I thought Jada Stone was absolutely phenomenal. Her and Starlight Kid had a really, really good partnership in that tag match.
Yeah, again, this whole show was great. Those last 3 matches, the championship matches, were terrific. And again, Lena Cross and Hazuki was great. We thought Hazuki was going to win the championship, but Lena Cross, who I've only seen a handful of times in Sendai Girls, she just kept dominating Hazuki. And it was so funny because like the match goes to start, and obviously Hazuki's Suzuki mode, the people's champion. We love Hazuki. And Lena Cross is so much bigger than Hazuki. We didn't even realize it, like just how intimidating and how like powerful she is. The bell rings and they're doing a kind of a stare off, and I yell out really loud, Hazuki will win by murder. And then Lena Cross just gives me the death stare, and I immediately point over to Amber. I immediately put the heat on her like she's the one that said it. Right? And Amber didn't even realize it. She didn't even realize it because she was having a Jack and Coke or whatever, which again, my wife rarely drinks, so she was enjoying that. And I just pointed over to her because and that's what you want. I know the handful of times that I have worked heel, somebody yells something to me, you want to stare that person down because now that person is involved in the match, and they're going to be getting more involved in the match as they want their hero, the babyface, to win, which obviously, again, Hazuki's probably my favorite wrestler in all of wrestling. So she did the perfect thing by staring me down, and I immediately pointed over. I said, no, she said it. To this day, I don't think Amber knows that I try to put the heat on her. But the match was structured so well because Hazuki towards the end was just getting battered. And we don't really see this much in Stardom because it's usually Hazuki doing the battering, but she just got hit with move after move after move after move. And it was 2.8, 2.9, 2.98, 2.99. Every time Hazuki kicked out, the crowd got hotter and hotter and hotter. And eventually Hazuki reversed, maybe it was an F5 or something like that, and then locked in the Hazuki straw. And when that referee, I think it was Daichi, when his hand hit 3, that place went nuts. I was like, what great psychology, as you're just building up Hazuki as this underneath babyface and Lana Cross as this dominant kick-ass heel, and for Hazuki to pull the win out literally like, last second, I thought was genius. Again, a really, really solid show. It was always great seeing Aja Kong. Azumi, I loved Saki. I think Saki's terrific. I would love to see her back in Stardom. Obviously, again, we mentioned before, Stardom needs to start filling in some voids from everybody injured. I would love to see them kind of throw a lifeline and bring Saki in for some matches. But for me, the Hazuki versus Lana Cross match was one of my favorite matches of the entire weekend. I thought it was absolutely terrific. And again, the crowd was into everything. So again, solid show. Again, the Stardom show was great. The Spark show was great. The meet and greet was terrific. Everybody that we met, our fan base over the Stardom cast was great. I mean, this was an absolute home run, literally to the point where, again, Kirsty could not, she literally missed the last few matches of said show. And then when we went to go out to find her, she was pretty well dozed off, it seemed like, on the sofa. Looked like a comfortable sofa, though, so I have to give her credit.
It did look like a comfortable sofa. And again, she had to go home before Bloodsport. Shout out, by the way, to Blitz, who he was best friends with Shuri throughout most of these shows. He always he got front row seats to absolutely everything, had his Shuri towel. And when Hazuki won a singles championship, which, as Hazuki fans know, is the promised land because it just never feels like it's going to happen. Blitz was there with her. He was basically in the ring with Hazuki. He was that into this singles win. So, really, really good atmosphere for this show. So once we dropped Kirsty off, a very sleepy Kirsty back at the hotel, we went on to Bloodsport, where, of course, was at the Pearl Theatre, where we saw Dragon Gate. It was a part of the collective show. And a couple of things here. Obviously, first things first, Maika versus Carmen Petrovic. We had Nai Neidhart versus Miyu Yamashita. We had Konami and Shayna Baszler. We had Zack Sabre Jr. and Jonathan Gresham have a Zack Sabre Jr. and Jonathan Gresham match, which of course meant it was fantastic. Pete Dunne and Timothy Thatcher was really good. Karrion Kross got a huge reception because obviously he's a hometown boy. But in terms of those two Stardom talents, Maika and Carmen Petrovic, Maika, the only person not to lose to a WWE contracted talent over Bloodsport, which I thought that's Maika style. Hashtag Maika style. I mean, I don't know how good an idea it was to do Bloodsport with a elbow injury that's now forced her out for 6 months to a year. But that being said, I thought that match was really good. It's properly short. I think it only went 4 minutes, something like that. But I thought Maika, despite the very, very strong strikes from Carmen Petrovic, gave a really good of a car of herself. And once she grounded Carmen, it was really good.
Yeah, and I made mention because we knew we had to try to get to Marvelous at 11 o'clock. And I was like, I think there was 7 or 8 matches on the show. And I think the people that run the Pearl told Josh, like, you have to cut. So, because I know Simon Gotch was supposed to be on this card. There's a couple other people. They said, you have too many matches, because I think they wanted all the shows to be around 2 hours. So this way the fans can get to as many shows as possible. So I was like, the Bloodsport, again, I've seen every single Bloodsport before. Some of the matches, most of them, they don't go that long. It's because it's almost, it's a work shoot. You're not working wrestled. You're not working the crowd, except for Gabe Kidd, which we'll get into in a moment. So a lot of it is just you might say 4 minutes isn't long. Like, literally have 4 minutes where you're basically trying to grapple somebody. You're trying to strike somebody. You can tell a lot of different stories in 4, 5, 6 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, what have you. That's why a lot of the matches where boom, 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 you're kind of just getting in and out. How many great MMA fights have you seen that get done in 5 minutes or, 7 minutes going into the second round? So that's what really Bloodsport is. It's basically blink and you'll miss it, because you never know when something's going to end. And I even told you, I said, man, this is going to stink that Mike is going to lose to an NXT wrestler, because I don't think that Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Nick Connor loaning WWE talent out to Josh Barnett to have him do the JOB. But I was like, once Maika, she's getting kicked around. There was a couple things that they teased for knockouts, because I know Carmen Petrovic has a really great background in karate. And she was setting up for like one big kick, and I think I leaned over to you and I said, "This will be the KO. Like this will be the KO." Then Maika blocks it, hits like 2 German suplexes, and then locks in a rear naked choke and gets the hooks in. And I was like, "Ooh, this is how usually the Bloodsport matches finish." And when Carmen tapped out, me and you jumped out of our chairs. So pretty much so did everybody else because Maika was over huge. And I was like, "Wow!" Not only was it a great match, it was a really great finish that I didn't see coming. But the fact that we had a Stardom wrestler get a win, a contracted Stardom wrestler get a win over a contracted WWE wrestler, in front of almost 1,000 people, and what was a really great match, that was huge. I was like, wow, that was really a great little shout for Maika because I don't think any of these WWE wrestlers have lost on these blood sports. I think maybe Charlie Dempsey. I think he lost to Josh or Minoru Suzuki, but that's like, your top tier. But again, really great stuff. The whole show was great. The only thing is, and we obviously we're going to get into it, is me and you're kind of looking at the clock. We wanted to go to Marvelous. We're like, we need to leave now. And just the main event was just starting with Josh and Gabe Kidd. And I was like, I have Triller TV. I have Triller TV Plus. I get all the Bloodsport on there regardless. I'll go back and watch it. We wanted to go to Marvelous because we were sponsoring everything over at the meet in Las Vegas. So we wanted to go there. I know me and you were kind of like running on empty, and we're kind of looking at each other like which one of us is going to pull the plug. And I was like, let's just tough it out and try to get there. Amber took a separate Uber, which helped us out because if we would have taken Amber back to the hotel and our Uber then go back, because what happened is we got there about 15 minutes late and the guy said I was getting ready to lock the door in about 5 minutes. So had Amber, Amber was like, no, your guys are already late to begin with. Don't worry about it. I'll take an Uber. I'll go back. You guys go straight from the Pearl to the meet. Had we had to take Amber back and then got there, we would have missed the entire show. But we, not unless you want to say anything about Bloodsport, Rob, do you want to just transition into the Marvelous?
Yeah, because I was flagging during Bloodsport. I'm not going to lie.
It was a great show. It was a great show. It was a long day.
But the jet lag was real. And I think it was around the Karrion Kross match. I just remember, like, I am real struggling. I remember I said to you after the Marvelous show, I said, like, if you'd have turned to me during Bloodsport and said, do you want to leave Marvelous and not do it? I'd have gone, yeah, absolutely. Let's just go home and go to bed, or go to the hotel and go to bed. But we didn't. We ended up going to the meet with possibly the most depressed taxi driver I've ever met in my entire life. Every other taxi driver that we had with Uber was fantastic. We couldn't get out of that taxi quick enough. He dropped us off in the middle of nowhere and just said, yeah, the meet's around here somewhere. Anyone else, we'd have gone, well, no, can you take us to the actual destination we've paid you for? He dropped us off and we were like, yeah, see you later, mate. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Luckily, it was just behind us. So it wasn't that bad. But, Matt, and this is a bold, bold thing to say. This Marvelous show, I am so glad I toughed out Bloodsport, because this Marvelous show was my favorite show of the entire week. And that is saying something. Even
better than the Mania shows.
Mania had the moments, obviously the Io, Rhea, and Bianca match, which we're going to talk about, the Cena entrance, even if the Cena match was a bit bizarre, the Punk match. As a top to bottom show, this was phenomenal. Like, shout out to everyone crammed inside the meet, because that was a legit sellout. And it was 11 o'clock at night, and they raised the roof of that show. Like, we got there, like you mentioned, we got there and we missed, I believe, the Scramble match, which was luckily just the opener, really. So it wasn't too bad. But we got there as the 6-man tag started, and Xia Brookside was yelling something at Alan Angels from the back, which was quite funny. But the entire vibe of that show from start to finish was electric. Absolutely electric. And then the Ai-Hozan match, people started ramping up. Maya World versus Rina Yamashita, it started ramping up again. And then we got to Aja Kong versus Senka Akatsuki. Oh my God. It was a 5-minute squash. And it was one of the best. Well, not even a squash. It was a 5-minute match that legitimately was one of my favorite matches of the show. The place went nuts for Senka refusing to be shoot pinned by Aja Kong. It was the biggest reception of any of the indie shows we saw. It was incredible. A fantastic moment. Senka was a huge star in this match. Aja Kong was fantastic, as you would expect. It's Aja Kong, even at, late 50s, early 60s. She's still an absolute badass. But the performance of Senka was incredible. We saw Nyla Rose absolutely destroy Sora, which was really quite funny. She interacted with the audience really well. And then the main event, of course, Takumi Iroha and Syuri. You put anyone else in there, but you had Zakar and Johnny Robbie as well, and they were great. But that little tease, Syuri and Takumi Iroha again, absolutely. This show flew by. I think it was done in just under 2 hours. And from top to bottom, the atmosphere, the wrestling, the excitement, phenomenal show from Marvelous. Really, really, really excellent.
I think you add in the fact that it was 11 o'clock. I want to say majority of the people in that building was not their first show of the day. I don't know if anybody did 4 in an autograph session like we did, because we were absolutely insane. We walked in there, and again, we did not have the nicest of drivers. And again, like I said, we went to go walk in there. They're like, we were ready to lock the doors in about 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, we made it. So we walked in, and as soon as we walked in, the atmosphere in that building was electric. It was wall to wall, standing people. Zaya Brookside just happened to be standing there. There was a lot of like independent female wrestlers and male wrestlers that were checking out the show. Everybody was over. Yeah, the Ajik Nyla Rose was great. It was great seeing Miyu Yamashita, and it's Myla World she wrestled, right? Isn't that who?
Who? Sorry,
Miyu.
Rina Yamashita.
Or Rena. I'm sorry, Rena. Yeah, Rena. She wrestled.
And then
I think
Hozan had Masha Slamovich.
Yeah, Rena. I'm sorry. That match was great because she did comedy, she did hardcore, and then she did hard hitting, all within all within one match. I was like, oh. And then the next week we find out that she's part of Suzu's new group. So I'm like, oh, she'll fit in really well there. Yeah. But yeah, the Aja Kong Sanka match, and the place went nuts for Sanka and Sora as well. Like, and they didn't break at all. Like, I'm sure they don't get this type of reaction in the Marvelous match, because that place was nuts. I mean, the building was shaking, and they just stayed so stoic. And yeah, probably the biggest pop of the whole night on that show was just Sanka bridging out of Aja Kong's pins. I thought that was great. And then you get the main event. We have Sherry on one side, Takumi Iroha on the other. We're kind of like, they're obviously the big stars in this match. Are they going to tease anything, or they kind of stay away? Well, as soon as they had the entrances, they were staring at each other, and there were stare downs, and they went at it to the point where I was like, looked over at you, and I was like, if Sherry wins this belt next week, which obviously she did, that might be your V1, V2, V3. Again, obviously we know that Marvelous is working with Marigold, but at the same time, we did see a Marvelous wrestler in the ring with a Stardom wrestler, and they made a point to, because I think after the match was over, they got in each other's face, and they were like, this isn't done. This isn't done. Whether they were just doing something to pop the crowd or maybe plant seeds for something in the future, I don't know. But all the shows were great. And considering the fact that we were running on literally next to no energy, and we pulled everything through, and this show was as good as it was. Now, again, we did sponsor everything over at the meet. And thanks to everybody over at Prestige Wrestling, because I know Rob dealt with majority of everybody over at Prestige Wrestling, and I took care of with CB over at Spark. We did a little divide and conquer. That's how teamwork goes, folks. But from what Rob was telling me, they were very easy to work with, had no issues with anything. Rob got the banner, shipped the banner over. They got it, no problem. And the idea was we were going to get access to interviews. And we're like, let's interview some of the Marvelous wrestlers. Well, because we got there late, we weren't able to do any of the interviews. And I was like, let's just stay late. Let's hang around. Let them know, hey, we're the Stardom guys. As soon as the show was over, they were like, not in these words, they were like, get the F out. Everybody get out.
Absolutely.
And we were like, no problem, because we were going to go to bed. So we're like, we had no problem. We were scheduled to do some interviews. I even bought new wireless mics, the whole nine. That didn't happen because of all the great stuff that did happen. We knew we weren't going to be able to get to anything, but our everything. So that was the one thing we did miss out on the interviews. But regardless, again, 4 shows, autograph session. Couldn't ask for anything more, my man. That Thursday was an absolute home run. We absolutely kicked the crap out of that day, buddy.
We absolutely did. And again, when you've got, it goes to show just how hot this crowd was when your semi-main event and your third match from the top had your 2 rookies in there, and they were so ridiculously well received. Like, incredible, really was. Sadie Gibbs did a Sasuke special, for God's sake. And this venue is not a big venue. So fair play to her, fair play to everyone on this roster. Again, just an enjoyable show. And again, 11 p.m., on a day when I've already done 3 shows. I'm jet lagged to hell. I'm slightly drunk off the jet lag.
And drunk in general. You had a few drinks at the Silverton Casino.
Yes, I did. Yes, you're absolutely right. And genuinely, this was phenomenal. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. Again, my match of the just with everything combined, this was my show of the week. We then moved on to Friday. We were all a bit more awake when it came to Friday. It was probably the only day where we didn't have a ridiculously early start because Stardom, again, at the meet for their American Dream in Neon City show, didn't start on me till 12, and we only had the 2 shows on the Friday. And again, similar to the show in Sin City, it felt very house showy, but again, it surpassed expectations. Mina Shirakawa's final date with Stardom, and everyone, of course, loved Mina. There was a huge crowd reaction to Mina, another huge crowd reaction to both Momo and Hazuki. We got to see Suzu Suzuki and Hazuki team together, which, foreshadowing, hopefully. We saw Clark Connors kill Taro Okada with a spear. Like, I'm not joking. So if you watch the stream, Taro Okada gets speared into the corner. We are sitting basically directly behind Taro Okada as he gets himself speared out of his shoes. And the thing was, like, Clark Connors obviously looked after him, but he was dangerously close to the ring post when he got speared.
The turnbuckle. The turnbuckle.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, how he managed to avoid it, I've got no idea. Because we were going to take a picture with Taro Okada. We were going to ask if he wanted a picture in front of the banner, and needless to say, he didn't come back. But do you know the thing that I remember most about this show, Matt, above everything, is we were queued up. Go on.
I was going to say how dapper Jordan Castle looked.
Jordan Castle's suits need a podcast on its own. Like, honestly, that man, his suitcase must just be filled with jazzy suits because, honestly, incredibly dapper gentleman. Again, came and said hello, had a picture with us. Really nice guy. But no, the thing I remember, Matt, is we got there and everyone was still queuing, and we were like, oh, okay. And then it got to about 11:45 and everyone was still queuing. It was like, oh, okay, something's gone wrong. Taro Okada was on the phone outside. I wonder what's gone on. Anyway, we got closer to the venue. I turned around, I was like, Kirsty, I can hear something. What can I hear? It was that bloody All-Star Grand Queendom promo again. And every 30 seconds, you just heard Starlight Kid shout those words. And that was when we were timing. It's like, it's a 30-second promo, and it's literally just on loop. It's just on loop. So I must have heard it collectively 60 times.
Rob, I'm going to ask you this. Did that promo work? Sure did. 7,500 people in Yokohama, so I guess it worked.
You are absolutely right, because Jacob Howard, who we obviously spoke to in Philly, we then met again in Vegas in most of the signing lines at WrestleCon. He went over to Yokohama almost immediately following this, so I can only assume that it was on the back of hearing Starlight Kid shout those 3 words 85 billion times. But that's what I remember. Queuing up outside, it was hot, it was really nice heat. It wasn't like overbearing or anything, but just hearing Starlight Kid shouting those words, I was like, oh my god, please stop. But the show itself, really enjoyable. I don't know whether something went wrong in the semi-main, because we got Azumi, Mayu World, Johnny Robbie, and Starlight Kid having a really good match. And then I don't know whether Maya World hurt her head or her neck. Maya World, by the way, it really was her WrestleMania week. Like, she was everywhere and she was so good. Keep an eye out for her, because she is going to be a really big star if this WrestleMania week is anything to go by. But they seem to end it quite abruptly, and it's such a shame, because it threatened to be a really good match. But that aside, I thought the main event, again, the Divine Kingdom teaming Megan Bain and Maika and Hanako as well. I thought that main event was good again, Matt.
Yeah, we walked into the building, and obviously it was the 4 of us, obviously me, Rob, and our significant others. And I was like, oh, we're one of the sponsors. We're the Stardom Cast. And lady's like, will you go in and you guys enjoy your time and take any seat you want? So Amber looked at me. She goes, oh, I didn't realize you guys were VIP. And then we went to go use the restrooms, and she she got in and out of the women's room pretty quick. And I said, yeah, that was pretty fast because you had VIP. She's like, no, there's only about 7 women in this venue. So that's why there was no bathroom line. You got the VIP. I said, I take care of you. But yeah, we obviously, our banner, we did see our banner at Marvelous, but we couldn't get to it because, again, we got there late and it was just wall-to-wall people. And I was like, let's get a picture afterwards. And they literally threw us out. So I was like, okay, we'll get it tomorrow. We got a whole bunch of pictures in front of the banner. That's when Jordan Castle came over. We didn't get our picture with Teru Okada in front of the banner because obviously he got speared by Clark Connors, but we did get Jordan Castle.
Yeah, he was dead.
Yeah, we did get Jordan Castle in that dapper suit. So yeah, the show was really good. We did start with Mina. Good way to start the show. Obviously, again, Momo Watanabe, massive reaction. But I think you're right. I think something happened with Myla World. I think that she kind of got her noggin. She might have got her bell rung a little bit and just smarter to maybe take it home. Because I think she wrestled on like 9 other shows afterwards. So,
she was all over the place, especially on that Thursday, because she was on that Pandemonium Pro show, which her editing had a massive hand in against Mayu Iwatani, which is a show I really wanted to go to, but it was at the exact same time as Stardom. So, and then she turned up for Spark Joshi, and then she was at Marvelous as well. So she was everywhere.
Yeah, and we'll have to reach out to her, try to get her on the show. I think that'd be a really good future interview because I think me and you were both tweeting out that she needs to be on more Stardom shows. I think she was retweeting our tweets, so I'll definitely reach out to her sometime this week. Would love to have her on the show. I'm going to put that out in the ether, my friend. Let's get Maya World on the Stardom cast. But yeah, it was great. It was really cool seeing, again, our logo was on the mat. It was really cool seeing Hazuki hit the senton for the pin, literally on our faces. So I thought that was something really cool. Yeah, again, a solid show. It was great seeing Divine Kingdom with Hanako in the main event, and they did the Doomsday device. I thought that was really cool. I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to pick that out. And again, the fact that Maika is wrestling with basically one bad arm, and they're still pulling out the Doomsday device on kind of a house show on a smaller venue, just goes to show you everybody worked really hard. I thought as far as the Stardom shows, obviously there was 2 here compared to the one last year. I thought the Stardom shows this year was better. Obviously, last year's had the best, had a great main event. Probably my favorite match outside of Mark Briscoe and Eddie Kingston from last year with Mike and Megan Bain. I thought that was for the World of Stardom Championship. I thought that was terrific. But again, the Spark show was great. The first Stardom show was great. And I think this was another really great show. And again, Azumi and Starlight Kid on opposite sides. They started out that tag match with what you would expect with Azumi and Starlight Kid, and that place went absolutely nuts. Again, really terrific stuff. And again, Teru Okada taking that spear from Clark Connors. I was so worried the back of his head was going to hit that turnbuckle, and he just missed it. I was like, oh boy, howdy. But I know me and you were kind of waiting around to see maybe if we can get any of the any pictures with anybody else. And they were like, all right, you guys got to get out. We got to set up for the next one. They threw us right. Like, okay, no problem. So that was our first adventure on Friday, my friend. Again, our Friday was a little bit more low-key than any of the other days. But all in all, a really great show. And again, the people over at Prestige Wrestling and the meet absolutely were fantastic and easy to deal with. I mean, if this is something that they're going to be doing each and every year for WrestleMania, I think this is a tag team that I would love to do with them because, again, the sponsorship was really easy. And again, the fact that we can pretty much go to any show we wanted to, I thought they were terrific to deal with.
Moving on then to Jesus Christ. So Spring Break 9. This was our evening show. Started at 7 at the Palms. Again, part of the collective. And this was billed all around Joey Janela versus Sabu. Sabu's final ever match. So we get there, which is always a good start. Check the bags, and we go and queue up to get drinks. Matt is feeling frisky, so he's like, let's have a pineapple and vodka. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea.
Should we tell why I was feeling a little? I was out of my Matt Turner mode, and everybody saw it. So let's take a step back. I lose my cool and I don't say anything when something bad happens or something goes against the schedule that's out of my control. So we had a little bit of time between the show and this show.
Oh, yes, I've just remembered why.
What?
I've just remembered why you lost your cool.
I'm going to get into that. It's going to add to the story.
Yeah.
So we know now we had everybody that was on the Stardom show that had meet and greets. We were either going to meet at WrestleCon or at Spark, except for Suzu Suzuki, because it was either Suzu Suzuki or Io Sky at WWE World. So we opted for Io. Obviously, we love Suzu, But it's like, when are we be able to meet Io and get a picture with the belt? Because we knew going into that WrestleMania, she and obviously still is champion. So I do know from GCW, they're very big on having the wrestlers, especially the foreign wrestlers, do meet and greet. So I sent a tweet out to GCW. I was like, hey, is Suzu Suzuki doing a meet and greet before the show? And they said, yes, she's doing. I said, okay, let's get there. I think the show started at 9. Let's get there no later than 7:45. Okay, no problem. Now, we did know that because the Pearl at the Palms, the way it was set up, there was no way to get a merch table in there. But we were told from the people, I think it was Blitz, told us, no, there's another spot in the casino that they're doing the meet and greets. Great. So I was like, all right, we'll walk up and down the strip. We'll get our Uber. We'll be there at such and such time. We're waiting for our Uber, and then we find out that you have to walk all the way to the back to the designated Uber spot. So we had to cancel the Uber. It completely threw time off. And again, I'm a time fanatic, especially for this, because we need to be on time to hit everything that we want to hit. So it was nobody's fault. It was just miscommunication. And I used to get like, and now I'm getting annoyed. And it's nobody's fault. And I know if I open my mouth, I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. So it's better for me to just kind of keep my mouth shut. And I'm steaming. And I also know that my grandfather always told me, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, it's not worth more than 5 minutes worrying about. I know in 2 minutes I'm going to be fine. Amber orders the Uber. She tells me it's going to be fine. And I know it's going to be fine. As we start to, now this is the complete opposite of our Uber driver that we had from the night before, on Thursday. As I'm starting to cool down, and I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine. Whatever it is, what it is. I just want to try to get to Suzu Suzuki because so we can meet her. So that's the only one. As I'm starting to cool down a little, which I knew I was going to, the Uber driver goes, "What are you guys here for?" "We're here for wrestling." "Oh, I used to live in San Francisco. I used to watch wrestling at the Call Palace." I'm like, "So you're telling me Roddy Piper and you're just popping?" Because I don't know, like, obviously Rob knows that my expertise, ECW, WWF, like I love learning about the territories before I was born, the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. And I started talking about he's like, "Oh, I saw Roddy Piper and the Guerreros." I said, "Isn't it true that Roddy Piper played Luca Caracha on the bagpipes and people were trying to throw chairs at him and try to stab him?" He's like, "Yeah, I think something like that happened." And then we start talking about Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens. And all of a sudden, my mood goes right back to where I should be. Again, I was only a little upset for a little bit, and I kept really quiet. And after Rob goes, "I know that's when Matt's quiet because like he's literally not saying anything. And sometimes you can't get me to shut up." So that's where you knew there was something wrong. I'm like, let me just keep my mouth shut because I know I'll eventually quickly get back to where I need to be. We walk into Pearl at the Palms. We get there about 45 minutes before the show, and we ask where, I think it was called Green Street. I said, "Where's Green Street?" I said, "It's right through there." We walk in, old time arcade, looks like Spencer's Gifts. I mean, it's a really cool spot. We walk in, we go to where all the wrestlers are doing the meet and greet. DDT, which was the show that just happened, is just finishing up. So we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. Now we're like 15, 20 minutes before showtime. And you're like, "Yeah, Matt, I don't think Suzu's coming out. I don't think anybody's coming out because there's all empty tables here." And I was like, okay, whatever. Now I'm like, I don't even care. I would like to meet Suzu. It didn't happen. Not that big of a deal. I'm calmed down. I'm fine. Let's go get a drink. Let's go get a pineapple and vodka, and let's go enjoy some wacky wrestling. As we walk into the bar at the Pearl, Rob goes, "Hey, Matt, Suzu Suzuki's right over there." So she was signing autographs. Just happened to be in the wrong spot. Figured she'd be at where everybody was signing autographs and merchandise. No problem. Let's meet Suzu. Wow, this turned out so well. But it gets even better. So obviously me and Rob do the meet and greet with Suzu Suzuki. She was lovely. Didn't speak English as well as some of the other Stardom wrestlers. Didn't matter. It's Suzu Suzuki. Now all of a sudden we leave Suzu Suzuki's line and there's another table for another Suzuki, Minoru Suzuki. Obviously Minoru Suzuki is one of my favorite wrestlers ever. I'm like, "Oh my God, Rob, we have to do this." Wow, that literally just turned 180. Like, oh, we didn't think we were going to meet Suzu. Now we meet Suzu and Minoru. We get their picture taken. And Amber goes, "I'm going to take your pictures," and we had to check our bag because you couldn't bring it into the Pearl at the Palms. And I understand that. "I'm going to put your bag, your autograph photos in the bag back at the checkout." As we're getting ready to leave, now Rob was in line to get drinks. As we're getting ready to leave, this monster of a man is staring at me.
Enormous.
This enormous man is staring at me. Now, remember the Bozilla story, folks. Again, we're coming full. This is part 2 of part 3 of said story with Bozilla. All of a sudden, he looks at me. He goes, "Hey, Matt." And he reaches his hand out. The first thing I think of is, I don't know this guy. Maybe this is a guy that I worked the indies with 10, 15, 20 years ago that I haven't seen in a while. shakes my hand. He pulls me in for the brother hug. And he looks at me dead in the eye and he goes, "Thank you and Rob so much for all the nice things you say about my daughter on the podcast. She came into Japan pretty much an unknown, and you guys helped her out so much." And then all of a sudden things start clicking. This is Ulf Herman. This is Bozilla's dad. And again, we're massive fans of Bozilla. I'm a massive fan of Ulf Herman. I watched him in the 2000s on ECW. I said, "Oh my God." And I talked about how much of a fan I am of him. I said, "Can we get a picture?" And he's like, "Absolutely." So I look over at Amber, and Amber's looking at me like, doesn't know, and she just takes the picture. And then he goes to me, "Do me a favor." Or then he hands me Bozilla's card. Bozilla would love to come on the show. Contact her in about a month or two. We'll try to get her on the show. Great. And then he looks over at me and he says, "Hey, next time you see Rob, can you tell him thank you for me?" I was like, "Hold on 1 second." He's in the drink line 10 feet ahead of me. I said, "Rob, you need to get online. There's somebody that needs to talk to you." And then Rob thought it was the Necro Butcher.
I did. This guy, like, I've never seen him in person, Ulf Herman, and he is a massive dude. And it's funny, actually, I forgot to tell you, Kirsty, as we were sat at the Stardom show, the American Dream in Sin City, the one at Silverton, she turned to me and went, "There is a guy walking around that must have been a pro wrestler." I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "He's got grey beard, but he is massive. Absolutely massive. He's tall and he's got muscles for days." I was like, "Oh, I don't know who that is." And that was literally just after. It was Justin that told you about Bozilla, by the way. And it was just after that. It was just before that, sorry. So anyway, I went and saw him, and it's one of those moments where you're just like, he just keeps on going. He just, like, it's like Starlight Kid meeting me. She's just like, but yeah, he was so complimentary. We had a big chat, and a really, really nice guy. Because obviously Bozilla is on this card facing Megan Bain, and we had a conversation about that. We had a conversation about Bozilla, about him and how he's working again.
I even said, "You can go on another run." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I was off for 8 years." He's like, "I got in really good shape." And I was like, "No bleep." Like, look at him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously he had to go because, Bozilla was in one of the first matches. I think it was third on the card or something like that. And yeah, it was a real surreal experience that someone we talk about listens to the podcast. So yeah, a really, really humbling moment. Plus those pineapple and vodkas were incredible.
They went down good, didn't they? After all that. And it was really just, the timing was like, so like, wow, who would have thought? Again,
I was weird. Yeah.
I was steaming. Again, it's something that, and I'm trying to get better. It's something that I had no control over. So I'm going to just keep my mouth shut. And I knew I was going to be fine. And we literally went from me being not me, and then to talking about Roddy Piper. Again, one of my favorite wrestlers, to talk about Roddy Piper in the Cow Palace back in the 70s with our Uber driver. And then literally Suzu Suzuki, Minoru Suzuki, Ulf Herman, and Ulf Herman just thanking us. Again, he came over. He said, "Hey, Matt," he came over to us. So he recognized us. And I was like, "So watch you in ECW. I'm a massive fan of you." Like, he couldn't have been any nicer. I was like, I looked over at you and I said, what a surreal experience that was. And that, however, Rob, that might not have been the most surreal experience to happen in said building. Continue, sir.
So as a whole, this show was good. It felt long. And again, Kirsty hasn't seen a great deal of wrestling, and this card, you could tell that she was flagging during this card. She didn't say anything. Obviously, she didn't want to ruin it, but you could tell she was flagging. She'd got no idea what a Sabu was. So just bear that in mind as we talk about the main event. We're not just saying this, by the way, because we spoke to Bozilla, and then that I thought Bozilla and Megan Bain was the best match on the card.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was one of my favorite matches of the whole entire weekend. I thought Suzu and Masha was really good. It went a little bit short. Then we found out Suzu had like 4 matches in 3 days, and Masha had like 6 or 7. But yeah,
Masha Slamovich literally wrestled, I think, every minute of every day of WrestleMania week. She just insane schedule for that woman.
But no, I totally agree. Megan Bain and Bozilla, if you haven't checked it out, it was great. It's like what you think it would be, but if not better. I mean, it was terrific. They had basically almost like a Joshi style match, and the fact that it finished with Megan Bain hanging a tombstone on Bozilla, I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen Megan Bain do a tombstone before. Why didn't she do it to Azumi or May Sarah or Starlight Kid? It's like, no, I'm just going to do it on the biggest person that I've ever been in the ring with. But and I know you made mention it before on when we talked about it a little bit on the live stream on Sunday, is Megan Bayne got a really big reaction because she's wrestled in GCW before. And Stardom people know Stardom, and obviously she's on AEW TV and was on had an AEW pay-per-view championship match with Toni Storm, which again we'll get into. And we had a lengthy conversation with Megan Bayne at WrestleCon, and she was great. But and then Bozilla came out, and people were kind of like, wow, not many people knew who she was. By the end of the match, everybody was chanting her name. I mean, you can't ask for anything better in a match to get somebody that like people were kind of like, she got a nice applause. Maybe some people knew who she was. By the end of that match, everybody was chanting her name. And I totally agree. Bozilla and Megan Bayne not only was my favorite match on this show, it was one of my favorite matches of the entire weekend. It absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was a hoss battle, but it was really exciting. And again, to see Bozilla come in as not a relative unknown, but certainly with a lesser reaction than Megan Bayne, and to turn the crowd round shows how far she's come. And, we've talked about that before during her year-long or almost year-long run in Marigold. That's something that's become a real part of her character, as she is able to get that crowd on side. Like just talking about other matches, we had Atticus Cogar versus Fuego del Sol, which was just brutal, which we expected. One thing I am very, very confused by, and this was a staple, pardon the pun, of GCW shows that we saw. Why are there doors under the ring? So like chairs, I understand. Saying out of the ring, you need spares. Tables, merch tables, I understand that. Absolutely. Bins, sometimes they might get full. Doors? What the hell do you need spare doors for? And there was like 5 as well.
You're talking logically. Sorry, go ahead, continue, sir.
Yeah, I'm talking logically. Like, okay, like it's wrestling. I know you have to suspend disbelief at least a little bit, but I can't, I don't understand. Like, one of them was already broken. What is the use in that? There must have been, throughout this show, between the main event, oh my God, the main event, and the Cogar and Fuego del Sol match, there must have been 7 doors. No, actually more, because Gabe Kidd and Mance Warner used them as well. So there must have been more doors. Just, I don't understand. That was obviously brutal. I think Suzuki and Slavovich, as you mentioned, I think that just got cut for time a little bit.
Still great though.
Still good, yeah, absolutely. And then Matt, we got to the main event.
Now, real quick, I even told Rob, I said, this is Sabu. Again, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. When I hit those rebellious teenage years, that's when I got into ECW. The loud music, the crowd chants that were cool back then that you can't do now. No rules wrestling. Like, I hit ECW at the perfect time of my age and my fandom. I said, this is Sabu's last match. There's got to be like some sort of run-in with a Dreamer or a Sandman. And I think I even said, oh, man, if we get a Sandman entrance, like not a run-in, but the inner 5 minutes and 46 seconds of inner Sandman, I said, I will go absolutely ballistic. I just want to set the tone for that. Now, obviously, we take our intermission, and I was not going to tell Amber you're going to see a barbed wire match until it was happening. I think it was the day before. Rob's like, yeah, how about barbed wire match? And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I wanted her to be like, what did you take me to? So
sorry about that.
No, you're good. So I've seen, obviously, not only did they have the barbed wire, but they did it like spiderweb style. And there was one guy that was really good at it. They had like 8 people setting up the barbed wire. They had one guy who did like 3 sites by himself. He was the MVP of setting that up.
He really was, yeah.
Then we have barbed wire boards. Then we have a barbed wire pit. So not only was it just barbed wire, it was literally like spiderweb barbed wire, 2 or 3 barbed wire boards, and a barbed wire pit. So I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I'll give the GCW production crew a lot of credit because, again, I don't watch GCW all the time. They did a great match giving us little video packages for every match, but especially this one. Again, a lot of credit's got to go to Joey Janela because he did all of the pro up to build up this match. Joey Janela comes out, Rob Goodwin, then Sabu comes out, and we knew right from the moment he came out, something is not right, sir. Something is not right.
He comes out and he's doing his shtick, look, I'm Sabu, pointing up there. And the fact that he got him in the building, I think, was a win. But he makes his way downstairs towards the ring, and this man can't walk. Like, he's holding on to the railing. And I turned to Kirsty at this point and I said, I don't think he's fit. I don't think he's ready to go at all. And he tried about 3 times to get in the ring and couldn't.
They have people help
And
him. A couple
he had to
chairs,
have,
their people help him. Yeah, like dump Matsumoto, but like that's kind of like, the fun gimmick. This guy's supposed to be doing a barbed wire match and his retirement match that like 2,000 people came to see.
dude, Dump Matsumoto was looked like a Zoomy compared to Sabu.
Clip that. That's the next t-shirt.
So Sabu gets into the ring eventually, and his music's looped about 15 times at this point. He goes to the ring announcer and basically starts doing that. No, don't announce me.
Now, I just want to say real quick, again, I've seen pretty much every Sabu match from 95 up until ECW was done. Sabu is he is worse than John Cena when it comes to calling his spots. He calls his spots so audible to the point where Joey Styles, the one I remember was Van Dam and Sabu versus the Eliminators. Sabu's calling spots and Joey Styles, being the genius that he was and is, said Sabu's trying to bite Perry Saturn's ear. Because like that's how he was trying to cover it up. Literally to the point a friend of mine would do commentating for Chikara and CZW and stuff like that. If he saw somebody audibly calling a spot, he would say Rob Goodwin is trying to bite Matt Turner's ear to get rid of the illusion. So again, I know Sabu is notorious for calling his spots really loud, and this is when he comes in and continue. I just want to put that precedent out. I know when Sabu is calling his spots, boy, he was calling spots before the bell rang, Rob.
He didn't want to go. There was no way he was doing this match. So he was basically, no, do not announce me. So this poor ring announcer dude, Joey Janela's already in the ring. And
the poor ref, that poor girl, she was scared out of her mind.
And basically every time he starts to try and announce Sabu's like, no. And then he'll randomly turn around, hit his pose, and the ring announcer will try and announce him again. And Sabu's like, no. Eventually, Joey Janela loses all patience with the man and basically starts the match anyway. Okay, you're starting this match, Sabu. We've paid you. You're starting this match. Now, bear in mind what Matt said. Barbed wire ring ropes, barbed wire boards in the corner, and barbed wire traps on the outside. So they do a little bit of sort of teasing about who's going to hit the barbed wire. And Sabu, I'm just going to say this now. He must have been on something. There's just no way he was right. Allegedly, obviously. But anyway, Joey whips him into the ropes and Sabu basically half stops and half ends up in the barbed wire. It then takes him a good long while to disentangle himself. He looks very pissed off at this point. And then Joey Janela hurls him into one of the pits. Now, Sabu...
No, that's not what happened. He went for air Sabu, and Joey Janela ducked, and he went over the barbed wire and went into the pit face first and did not put his hands up. So he literally...
Nothing at all.
The one you think you have to worry about is your eyes. It's your eyes, because once your eyes go, you can't get... So I was like, oh boy, yeah, he air Sabu'd, and I don't know what happened. Again, I think his trajectory was off, or, he may have left too much hand. Yes, reasons. And he went face first and didn't put his hands up and went like head first over the barbed wire into that crazy barbed wire pit.
So his face was cut up as hell. That took another couple of minutes to sort. They then got back in the ring and set up one of the boards against the barbed wire where the rope should have been. Bearing in mind, they did it against the one side. It took one bloke about an hour to do. So it wasn't done properly. So anyway, Joey Janela whips Sabu into this board. And Sabu hits the board and goes straight through the ropes. And the bump he takes as he hits the floor is unbelievable. Like, he cracks his head on the flooring. It's absolutely pouring with blood. You've got ring attendants trying to mop it all up. The match has just gone to hell at this point. They send out Atticus Kogar and his brother to try and
think Bill Alfonso came out at some point.
Bill Alfonso came out. He took a Death Valley driver in some barbed wire, I think, at one point.
Yeah, he did. God bless him.
They throw GCW, throwing everything at it to try and make this match work. So Sabu is still basically unconscious at this point. And then after the Kogars and Joey Janela do their stuff, Joey Janela ends up in the barbed wire at some point. The lights go down. The lights go down, Matt Turner. And after you.
Well, first I'm going to I haven't apologized to Rob because I was waiting for this form. I'm going to publicly apologize because I screamed like a teenage girl at a Justin Bieber concert. Because I even said if we can get something with the Sandman, that would be great. Obviously, Sandman is not the greatest worker, but the entrance is amazing. I literally, as soon as the light shut off, I stood up and I literally screamed like a teenage girl at a Justin Bieber concert. And I was so again, Rob, I apologize. I know it was right in your ear. So
it was, but the fact that the story about the filming made it up to me. So,
and I do want to make reference that I thought that my wife probably would have divorced me after this. She's literally cackling during this match. So all of a sudden, I know what this means. And all of a sudden, Sandman's music hits. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm a 16, 17-year-old kid, either at the ECW arena or Scranton CYC, because they would always go there as well. And that was only 10 minutes away from my house. I felt like I was a teenage kid again. And the Sandman music hits. And then literally, and I'm somebody that lives in the moment. I will take pictures from time to time of certain things. There's very rare time. If I'm at a concert or a wrestling show, and even Amber, a lot of the Stardom shows, she sat away from me because she knew I wasn't going to take pictures, and she took the pictures because I'm very much living in the moment. I do not want to be on my phone if I'm at a concert or a wrestling show. There wasn't one person sitting. Say whatever you want about this match. There wasn't one person sitting. Everybody's singing the Sandman's theme. I take my phone out. I hit the record button, or so I thought. So I'm literally sitting there. We're about 3 minutes into this, right? And all of a sudden, everybody's going nuts, dun, 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 to include everyone. Everybody's singing the theme. I'm like, this is so great. And all of a sudden, Amber looks over and she goes, you forgot to hit the record button. I had my phone out for a good 2.5 minutes. I was so entrenched in the moment of everything going on. And again, it's very rare I take my phone out. Maybe a picture, really never to record, but I'm like, I'm going to record this because I want to remember this. And I went back and watched it the next day, and I was like, yeah, I can probably delete that because it was just the last 28 seconds of the song. So I was literally out of my mind getting to see a Sandman entrance again. He barely can get in the ring. He throws the weakest cane shots, but it didn't matter. He did the whole beer thing, the whole nine. The place went nuts. They did a great job smoking and mirroring this match. They really, really did, to the point. That was one of my highlights of the whole entire weekend is I got to see a Sandman entrance for what may or may not be the last time. I was transported, back into my late teens. I thought that was absolutely terrific. Sandman comes in. He does get some weak cane shots. Somebody hits him with something that we don't see the Sandman for the rest of the match or rest of the evening either.
Had nothing to do with the end. I don't remember who won the match. I'll be perfect.
Sabu did. He hit. It wasn't too long after that somehow Joey Janela was still on the ground from what the Cougar brothers did. Am I saying that right? Cougar brothers? Koger. For what they did, because I know they did the skewers in his head and they beat him with a barbed wire baseball bat. Sabu got in the ring. He hit an Arabian face buster with a barbed wire chair and pinned Joey Janela. That was the only pin attempt of the entire match. And I don't think he hooked the leg, but regardless,
don't think he needed to.
So they got away with it. They did a great job smoking, mirroring the match. Again, the Sandman entrance for somebody that grew up in that era and was diehard ECW fan. That was such a cool moment for me. And again, for me to pull out my phone, hit the record button, or so I thought, because I wanted to live in the moment, or not live in the, but record because everybody else was. And then Amber was like, hit the record button for me. And then I said, I went back and watched, and I think I got the last 28 seconds. I thought it was like 2 or 3 minutes, which again, just adds to the story. But I figured obviously Sabu gets the win. I figured him and Sandman would come in and share beers, but that was pretty much the end of it. I don't know where he went.
It's one of the worst matches I've ever seen live. It was
great moments though.
Moments, yes. Match, crap. Trying to explain this to my girlfriend, who is effectively just watching the death of an old man. And she's like, I'm not enjoying this at all. I was like, don't worry, because neither am I. I follow wrestling. I know what's going on, and I'm not enjoying this either, so don't worry.
It was really funny because Meltzer gave his ratings for WrestleMania, and there was and like the weekend, and he gave obviously EO. The EO match got 5 stars. We're like, wow. The main event from night 1 got 3 and 4 stars. Wow, great rating. And then Joey Janela started retweeting stuff, and he's like, hey, what did Meltzer give me in Sabu? I don't know. I just thought that was so funny how he leaned into it, you know?
But yeah, this was carnage, and it ended. And we were like, right, what the hell have we just seen? But that leads us into Saturday, and of course, the meeting with Io Sky, which of course was one of the biggest things we wanted to do over WrestleMania week. We have now officially met all 3 members of the 3 Daughters of Stardom, Freedom. Really, really exciting moment. Now, my photo with Io will never see the light of day because I've got a gut on it, which is ever such a shame because Io looks lovely and I look like I've eaten like a badger or something. Like I've just got this massive muffin top going on. So that's never seen the light of day. But the experience itself, Io signed my book. Io spoke about my book, which was awesome. Of course, Matt had something even better signed, which we'll talk about in a moment. But as a moment to talk to Io, see her with the belts, have her photos taken with her, it was a tremendous, tremendous moment. And WWE World as a whole was organized really, really, really well.
Yeah, I saw some. Obviously, we were only there Saturday and Monday because those were our meet and greets. I saw some people that were there Thursday and Friday, and they were putting on social media that it wasn't worth it. It was overpriced. It was terrible. And I was like, we're just going there for our 3 meet and greets. So obviously, we had 2 with EO, autograph photo. Go ahead, sir. Look like you're gonna say something.
Oh no, it was overpriced. Oh, massively so. But it was well organized.
That's what we were there for. Again, we will. I don't even remember what I spent on the tickets. But
Let's
we're
not
gonna
look.
no,
Let's never look.
no. But we're gonna talk about the experience because the experience is gonna live on
Hell
forever.
yeah, brother.
So what had happened? I think it was in between before spring break. We wanted to see how close WWE World and WrestleCon were because the idea was get there early so we can do the EO meet and greet. We had 2 basically almost back to back. And then shuffle off to WrestleCon to see if we can get the autograph session with Starlight Kid and Hazuki, because we were going to miss Azumi and Suzu. But if we got there in time, we can get the second one, which was Starlight Kid and Hazuki. And then the next one was Wingori, Hanan and Saida, which obviously there's a great story there. So we went to the day before, just again before spring break, just to kind of get a lay of the land and to get our badges. We want to get our badges early. This way we weren't wasting any time. So we go to walk in and I'm so glad we did because they were like, you have to have a clear bag. You can't have a book bag. So I'm like, okay, I know I can't take my book bag. I'll just take my clear plastic thing that I was carrying in my book bag. No problem. Get in, get the wristbands. No problem. We get to WWE World about an hour or so before the doors open. We get in there. We go to right to EO's line. EO was starting autographs at 9:30. I think we got there at 8:30, 8:45. Oscar was in the line next. Her autograph session started at 9. By like 9:35, she was done. She ran through everything.
She pieced out. Yeah, she was done.
Bing, bang. Now Io was in line 2. Oscar was in line 1. Sheamus was in line 3. Both started at 9. You know where I'm going to go. Sheamus. They both started at 9. Io started at 9:30. So again, our idea was get as close to the line as possible, get our autographs, and then an hour or so later, she had the photo session. Get right in front of the photo session. As soon as the photo session's done, we go over it. We found out WrestleCon was maybe a football field away, like 100, 150 yards. So I'm like, boom, we can just walk right into WrestleCon. I'll order our meet and greet tickets for Hazuki and Starlight Kid. That was the general idea. We kind of had an idea, Rob, if I can get out of the line at such time, I think we can make it. So we had a plan. So we get there again. We get there early, no problem. We're able to get in. Don't have any issues there. We get to EO's line. There's like 4 people in front of us. Again, Oscar runs through hers. Shame. It even said they're only signing WWE merchandise and it's no photos. This is only for autographs. Sheamus is like, no, I don't care. Like, we're taking photos. I'll sign your baby's head. Like, I don't care. Like, he was signing everything. He was so nice. His time with everybody, he was terrific. So EO gets there like a minute or 2 late, no big deal. And I was like, and the one thing was, if it's only WWE licensed merch, obviously Rob wanted his book signed. I had, again, talked about my daughter with her artwork. I had done for, I think she made it for Christmas, a portrait of Io versus KAIRI from the 5th anniversary show for the red belt. And again, beautifully done. I'm like, I wanted Io to sign that. However, if they said no, I had a cover Weekly Pro Wrestling magazine that I bought about a year ago with Io with the WWE belt. I'm like, surely they would have to take that. If not, they usually have photos at the table. There was no photos at the table. So I was like, uh-oh, like we may be waiting here in line for 45 minutes and might not get anything. Let's see what happens. So sure enough, everybody is so nice, no problem. Just you can take photos, but once you get to the main part of the line, no photos. Oh, before that, we made a couple friends.
We did.
Somebody bought both of Rob's books because I explained to them if you buy both of them, you get free shipping. So we sold some books. We hit somebody, a whole bunch of people with the dot card. We got a whole bunch of new subscribers and followers on social media. So that was awesome. Talked about Queen's Quest. That was terrific. Get to the line. Here comes the moment of truth. They're like, okay, just to speed this up, have your item out that you want signed. Okay, no problem. So I take out said picture that Lily drew. And the guy goes, oh, this is beautiful. Did you do this? I said, no, my daughter did. He goes, what color would you what color would you want Io to sign this in? And I looked over at you. I go, what do you think, black? I go, yeah, I said, what do you guys think, black? Like, yeah, like, oh my God, Io's going to love this. I was like, okay. Now, if I know she's signing that, the handsome, tall gentleman behind me will get his book signed by Io because it didn't look like it didn't look like they really had any restrictions. So I was wearing my one of our listeners a couple years ago. He was cleaning out his house. I believe he lives in Japan, and he found the Io shirt from Io's last match in Stardom, where it was Thunder Rock versus Hazuki and Kagetsu. So long story short, he wound up sending me a message. He said, hey, I have this extra shirt. It doesn't fit me. I'll send it over to you. Name your price. Boom, no problem. I forgot I had it until about a week before we left for WrestleMania. I found it. I took a picture of it. I sent it to Rob, and he's like, dude, you got to wear that for the Io meet and greet.
Absolutely.
Like, yes, I will. So I walk over, and she pops twice. One, of the photo that my daughter drew, and two, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in Las Vegas that was wearing an Io Shirai final match.
I'd be amazed if there is another one. Yeah.
So she popped for that, and then where do you want me to sign? Oh my God, this is so lovely. Were you at that show? No, I wasn't. I do a podcast. Oh my God. And then I made mention of all the other matches on there. So then Momo Watanabe and Jungle Kiona had to go afterwards. She goes, you really know your Joshi, don't you? And for that 45 to 50 seconds I was there, she made you feel like the most important person in the room.
Really did.
She gave you your moment. She was so nice, so kind, so sweet. I get my thing signed. Rob gets his thing signed, and then we jet all the way over to the other side of the building so we can be kind of first in line for the photo op. So then this way we can hurry up, get out of there, and try to meet Hazuki and Starlight Kid. So we get there, we're in line, and we're waiting, and we notice Kane's line is huge, and it's not really moving. And somebody said, this is not a meet and greet, it's a photo op. Get your photo, and then move on to the next. And I'm like, yes, I'm totally with you. As we're waiting, all of a sudden, I see Sean Bewick. Now, you might be saying, Matt, who is Sean Bewick? He's somebody that not only did I graduate high school with 25 years ago, I went to kindergarten with. Now, again, you have to keep in mind, Las Vegas is on the other side of the country. I'm from Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania. I did bump into Sean last year at WrestleMania because it was Philly. It was local. All of a sudden, I see him walking with his son, and I was like, what are the odds of this? And he's like, of course you. You, of all people, meet somebody that you've known for almost 40 years across the country while we're waiting in line for Io Shirai. So I just thought that was hilarious. As we get through line, I mean, this line is moving. As soon as Io comes, and I even told Rob, I said, I've noticed this with New York Comic Con. When somebody has a long autograph line, their photo line can be like they might be 20, 30 minutes late. Io was like 3-4 minutes late, and it was like the lady did say 5 minutes prior because the Kane line was barely moving. It's not a meet and greet. Get your photo and get out. So, and she didn't say it. I mean, I understood. She was just like, we got to keep lines moving. She did say it like that. Well, anyhow.
Vicious.
Yeah,
she was.
And then she hit me with a big boot. But we get in line. As soon as I walk over, now again, I've done these, and again, it's from Epic Photo, very well organized. I know from doing New York Comic Con, once you get your photo, as soon as you walk in, you get your photo done. If you sneeze, tie your shoe, blink, they don't care. This was a little bit different because I walked over and she recognized, she pointed at the shirt again. And I go, Io, can we do Queen's Quest? And I wasn't in line for the photo. She literally grabbed me by my arm and pulled me in. She's like, no, we need to get here to the line. She's like, yes, Queen's Quest. Put her hand on my shoulder. And again, that 20-second interaction, once she made sure I was in a proper spot for the photo, and she made me feel like the most important person in the world. We go out. And again, for me doing this from New York Comic Con all the time, what you do is whatever email address that the photo is attached to, they scan your barcode and they scan your ticket and they scan your barcode. And then they always tell you within 20 or 30 minutes, it'll be in your email. It's within seconds. So we're literally like, we have a little over an hour for the Hazuki and Starlight Kid meet and greet to finish. I was like, and it's going to take us 5 minutes to get over there. So Rob, we have plenty of time. So we start booking it. I look at my email real quick. There are the 2 photos. I look at Rob. It's Rob's. No problem. Send it over to him. I look at the one that's me. It's not me. EO and somebody that is not me.
It's not
and I'm
even
like,
close.
And I'm like, oh my God, if we don't fix this now, I might not be able to fix it. So we go over to customer service, and within 3 or 4 minutes, the guy has us laughing. That doesn't look like you. Is this you? Yes, clearly it is. Put your email address in there. Boom. It was like a 5-minute ordeal. That was it. And he even said, it's the first time this has ever happened to me. I said, I know, me too. Like, how do you miss scanning the same barcode? It was just really weird. It's like 1 in a million that it wouldn't have happened. No problem. Boom. We run over to, as we're literally running over to WrestleCon, I'm like, I go on Eventbrite and I get our meet and greet tickets for Starlight Kid and Hazuki, which everything really fell into place. Again, EO made you feel like the most important person in the world for that 30, 40, 45 seconds you were there. Absolutely phenomenal, an absolute sweetheart of a person. Allison Danger did tell me once, as good of a wrestler as she is, she's even a better person. And I don't think she was wrong, good sir. I don't think she was wrong. So then we shuffle off to WrestleCon, and I just bought the tickets, and I'm like, we're definitely going to make it. We walk in, Rob Goodwin, I'm going to tag you in. There was a massive line after we got our badges, and we started to panic.
We did. We were like, this can't be the line to get into WrestleCon. This is absolutely ridiculous. Like, what is going on? And obviously, we hadn't got our wristbands, so we were like, we're never going to get in. Turns out it was Mike Tyson's line, and Mike Tyson's line literally snaked almost the entirety of WrestleCon. It was mad, the size of this line. Thankfully, a gentleman was like, no, you just skate past this queue. Eventually, they did sort of structure it a little bit better because people were ending up in the queue. They were ending up being they were bottlenecking because it was going down this tiny corridor where the Stardom wrestlers were, unfortunately. But ultimately, we managed to bypass that and got to meet Hazuki for a second time, which was the main thing. We also got to meet Starlight Kid again, which was great. Daichi Moriyama, fantastic referee, terrible photographer. Because if you've seen my Twitter post, you will see that I have had a photo with Starlight Kid, or at least someone with this part of me has had a photo with Starlight Kid, because he's cut my head off. So he then had to stick it up from there, which makes me look like some sort of golem compared to Starlight Kid. But it was still a lovely experience. We met Hazuki, we met Starlight Kid, and we met Konami and Natsuko Tora. Natsuko Tora, by the way.
That was the next day. That was the next day. We met Mina and Mariah May, and then Wingori, because I almost spoiled the surprise.
Was Wingori Saturday or was Wingori Sunday?
Wingori was Saturday, because Sunday
was
Maika.
Right,
yeah,
of course.
How can you forget the Maika meet and greet with our buddy Jumbo Quincy?
Yes, Jumbo Quincy having the best night of his best day of his life. So anyway, we met Starlight Kid, we met Hazuki. Went up to meet Mina, which was great. Had a really good conversation with Mina. She's asked us to support her in America, which I imagine she said to everyone. We will, of course. Apparently, her best match, Saya Kamitani, which I think we could have all guessed. And we also met Mariah May. Now, this spirals into, or this feeds into.
Hold on. You're going a little bit too fast. So we go. Hazuki was great. Hazuki, and what we liked about the WrestleCon meet and greet, like the Spark ones were good, but they're over the table, so you really don't get that really cool photo. That was one of the reasons why we wanted to meet Starlight Kid and Hazuki again, so we can kind of get the side by side, and they take more than one photo. So we do that. We go to get in line for Starlight Kid, and Starlight Kid goes, "Oh, hey Matt, how you doing? My new best friend, Starlight Kid."
Oh yeah, of course.
So obviously we refer to Starlight Kid as SLK. We may refer to her as MTNBF. SLK, Matt Turner's new best friend, Starlight Kid. That's what we put that on a t-shirt.
It's a mouthful. We know. We'll workshop it.
But so we get done with that. We know we have a little bit of time before Wingori. So we did have meet and greet passes for Toni Storm, which were good for Saturday and Sunday. So we said if we don't get her Saturday, we'll get her Sunday. So we go meet Mina. We were probably there about almost like 15, 20 minutes talking to Mina, because she was great. we did make mention her favorite match was Saya from All-Star Grand Queendom. I asked her who hits the hardest, and she said it's a tie between Shuri's kicks and Hazuki's elbows, which
that's right. Yes,
that's a great answer. Then I did say, I said, two of your biggest rivals ever in Stardom are Tam and Sai Kamitani. Got a big match coming up in a week. Who is your prediction? And she said, all I can say is I want Tam to win. I said, but you can't tell me who you think's going to win. And she winked at me. And I was like, okay, I got it. So then we went over to go, and we kept bumping into a whole bunch of listeners ours. I think John, Andy, we kept seeing them, and they did a good job not navigating us to the people that we know we wanted to meet. We met the girls from Marvelous not once, but twice. We got group photos. So that was really cool. When I went to go meet Mariah May, when we met her last year, she was fantastic. I had her sign my program for the 5-Star Grand Prix in 2023, which she was a part of. She did make mention that she, this was last year, she flipped. She said, mind if I flip through this? I said, no, absolutely. She's like, I've never seen this. And then I asked her, who did you wrestle that you are? Who didn't you wrestle that you want to? She said, I really wish Natsupoi was in my bracket. As I'm getting ready to meet Mariah May, the person in front of me was, we had a conversation. He was the same gentleman that said that Arisa Hoshinki is the best wrestler in Stardom history. And that's when I asked them, what's your favorite Arisa match? Saw him again at WrestleCon. He was right in front of me. We were talking about, her match with Jungle Kiona. And then the gentleman that was in charge of Mariah May's line was like, kind of like that lady at WWE World was like, you have to hurry it up because Mariah May, she's on break time. So you guys, if you guys want photos, you better do it now. It's going to be on break time. I said, okay, no problem. Went, got my photo with Mariah May. I had her signed. Amber blew up an 8x10 of me, you, and her from last year at WrestleCon. And I said, and I've been waiting almost a year to say this to her. I said, Mariah, I said, I don't know if you're paying attention to Stardom, but before you left, you mentored Hanan. You leave, Hanan wins the Cinderella tournament, wins the New Blood tag belts, wins the Goddess of Stardom tag league, and is now one half of the Goddess of Stardom champions. Is that because of your influence? She's like, yes, 100%. Took full credit for it. She was kind of, and I understand. She was kind of rushed, right? Because it looked like she needed to be somewhere. Yeah. A couple minutes goes by. I think we meet the girls from Marvelous, and then we go to get in the line for Saya Ida and Hanan. And we decided to do Saya Ida first because Hanan's line was longer. Our strategy was we'll do the shorter lines first, and by the time we get into the other line, that line will die down. Rob Goodwin, for the second year in a row, Mariah May cuts you off in line, good sir.
Such a heel. Yeah, so it was unfortunate, really, for poor Hanan, because obviously Matt tries to spoil the biggest surprise in the world, because obviously you've got Mariah May and Zoe Lucas hiding behind people because they want to surprise Hanan. Matt's there. Hi, Mariah. No, Matt. Shh.
Well, here's what I did. I go. She cuts in front of Rob again because she did last year to meet Mina and May Sarah. And I go, oh, hey, Mariah, we were just talking about you and Hanan. She looked at me, and then all the other people were just like, the damn guy from the Stardom cast can't keep his mouth shut. And then it literally clicked in my head like, oh, Hanan has no idea Mariah May is there. So I literally almost spoiled it. We just talked about you and Hanan. Like, shut up.
I mean, what's funny is that the only person in the room who didn't know Mariah May was there was Hanan. So obviously Mariah May appears. Hanan bursts into tears. It's so sweet. She just bursts into tears. They hug. It really does put pressure on the next person to meet Hanan, to be honest. Although big shout out to Hendrix, one of our favorites listeners of the Stardom cast, who gave a beautiful bunch of flowers to Hanan. So I'm sure that cheered her up. And then I was waiting in line for Saya Ida, and Mariah May cut in line again. Which just seems to be my WrestleMania experience. But it's
fine. 3 times she's cut in front of you. 3 times, buddy.
Saya Ida went a completely different direction. So Hanan burst into tears, was really sad, really overcome with emotion. Saya Ida took both Mariah May and Zoe Lucas down with a double leg takedown. It was brilliant. And then we got an impromptu call out from Zoe Lucas for the belts. But yeah, it was really cool. I really enjoyed those 2 meet and greets because of the of everything that went along with it.
And then Saya Ida did give me tips on how to throw my jacket, which Rob put on social media. So if you're going to learn from the master. Learn from the master.
Absolutely.
So at that point we were spent. WrestleCon was about 15-20 minutes away from wrapping up. And because we were going to make our way to WrestleMania, and I go, do we dare do the Tony Storm meet and greet? And we're like, we've done enough for today. We didn't even get to WrestleMania. And I know from working in restaurant, when somebody comes 15, 20 minutes in before they close, it's kind of a jerk move. So I was like, we'll save that one for tomorrow.
Yeah, so we ended up following that. We ended up obviously going to WrestleMania, baby. WrestleMania Night 1. Now this was interesting because we were a little bit late, so we missed Jelly Roll doing the national anthem. No, America the Beautiful. Sorry, not the national anthem. Yes, no. Is that the national anthem? America the Beautiful. I'm having a proper brain fart.
No, I mean, obviously, Rob, you don't live in this country. So they're completely two different things. Sometimes they'll do America the Beautiful. Like Aretha Franklin did it at WrestleMania 3. It's one of the most famous things.
They've definitely done the national anthem before,
right? When Vince is like, Miss Aretha Franklin, it's a very prominent moment in WrestleMania history. But yeah, he did America the Beautiful. And then I think the next night they did the national anthem. I could have that wrong because we had a lot of tequila and coconut rum in us on night 2, which we'll get into. It's good, sir.
So yeah, Night 1 as a whole. So Kirsty, again, who has never really been to anything like this, she thoroughly enjoyed both nights. Just because of the vibe, the sort of pageantry and things about it. The setup was incredible. And to be honest, considering this, the stadium's amazing. 4 years old, the Allegiant Stadium. And, you know, despite the fact that they were, quote unquote, cheaper tickets, the view was still pretty damn incredible. We could see everything. Everyone was in view of a screen, so it wasn't like you were missing anything. And just because otherwise this podcast is going to go 4.5 hours, we won't go through every single match that we saw on WrestleMania, but a couple of highlights. The yeeting of Jey Uso's entrance. Obviously, even Kirsty now knows what a yeet is, or at least knows how to yeet. I don't think any of us know what a yeet is. Jacob Fatu beating LA Knight was a really, really, really good match. But this was all about the main event. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I don't know if you've heard this before, but I do a podcast with someone who's trained by CM Punk. I don't know if he's ever brought this up, to be perfectly honest. But obviously the big thing for Punk was main eventing a WrestleMania, and to be there when he finally achieves this dream was obviously a big moment for Matt. And it was really quite nice to see how into it Matt was during Punk's entrance, where obviously we had Punk come out with Living Color. They played him out. It was a really, really good entrance. It was a great match as well. The triple threat, easily match of Night 1, because I think up until that point, it had been a relatively flat show in terms of match quality. Charlotte and Tiff hadn't quite clicked. The New Day versus War Raiders was a bit flat because obviously it had followed the opener with Jey Uso beating Gunther. El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix was all right. It was all right, yeah. But this show was all about the main event, wasn't it?
Yeah, again, I haven't talked to Punk in over 10 years, and that guy owes me nothing. He owes me nothing. Again, the whole, if you don't ask, the answer's always no. Literally, I live by that just about every single day. If you're going through hell, keep going. There's so many things that he's instilled in me that I use in literally everyday life. So it's just, again, that guy owes me nothing. And as Rob said, and Rob was sitting to the left of me, my wife was sitting to the right of me. What was really cool is they started playing The Fire Burns by Killswitch Engage, which was his first theme. And they started doing his promos from when he first started until now. And they're kind of going side by side. And then Living Color came out and played him to the ring. And literally, obviously we were all standing up. And as I sat down, I literally had tears in my eye. And Rob looked at me and he saw that. And he literally smacked me on the knee. And he was like, "Can you believe that?" I said, my guy finally got his main event. And the match could have been a dud. And I wouldn't have mattered. But for someone who doesn't like three-ways, and I talk about that all the time, for some reason, Stardom and the Joshis really know how to do it. The three-ways were the two best matches of probably the whole entire weekend. This was easily the best match of Night 1. This was fantastic. We knew there was going to be some chicanery in the match. I mean, every time they showed Paul Heyman, he wasn't moving. And then finally, everybody kind of hit their big moves. And then Paul Heyman went and got a chair. And it was just such great cinema with that ending sequence where everybody, it was played out. Everybody took their time. You had the double turn, this, that. Now I'm sure everybody saw how the match ended. And it was like, wow, what a great match. My guy finally gets his main event. And again, it was a pretty good show. You know, the Jey Uso entrance was amazing. Rob said the whole entire week he's not going to be yeeting. He's not going to be yeeting. Nobody was yeeting harder than one Rob Goodwin, so he went against his own thing.
You liar.
Again, great. The stadium was great. Halfway through the show, Amber's like, "Where are our tickets for night 2?" I'm like, "Literally one row behind us." So I was like, "That was really cool." We knew where we were going. As soon as you leave a bathroom, everywhere, snacks, beers, drink. I mean, the way it was set up, it was so convenient. Everybody's so nice. Beautiful stadium. But again, it was solid night 1, but it was a combination of seeing, the guy who trained me for pro wrestling, who, again, a lot of the things he's instilled in me, I use to this day, get finally his much earned, not deserved, goddamn earned main event slot at WrestleMania. Because, buddy, I was there at Mania 29 when him and Taker should have closed the show with that match. Because let me tell you, he was on fire then. But I mean, a really fun show. Again, it's WrestleMania, and even Amber's like her first WrestleMania. I believe this was my 5th or 6th. And she was like, "Wow, I can't believe this many people are here to see pro wrestling again." And what was really cool for me, again, being on the East Coast when these WrestleMania ends at 11 or 12 o'clock, this one was over like around 9 o'clock. I'm like, we still have the whole night ahead of us. Like, I wasn't used to that. Usually it's like, all right, I'm going to bed.
I mean, it was until we tried to get out of the stadium.
We had to walk because the Uber line was just like, no, we're better off walking. So we walked the 2.5 miles to get back, which it looked like it was like something seen out of Braveheart. You're like 20,000 people all walking to the same place.
It was ridiculous. Like, you went to the bridge and the bridge was just absolutely rammed. You couldn't actually see anyone move, really. It was just a slab of people. It was ridiculous. But that being said, it was a great top off to what was a fantastic show. Fantastic day. However, Sunday started with WrestleCon, obviously, and we met the timeless one. Now, we did a lot of meet and greets, and obviously we've still got KAIRI and Giulia to talk about. But for me, the meet and greet with Toni Storm might have been my favorite one of the entire week. Now, the reason for that is
we got to put a disclaimer real quick, buddy. We were G-rated podcast. We're gonna get a little bit more PG when we talk about our meet and greet with Toni Storm, because we have to get the full experience. But we pride ourselves on being a podcast for everybody G-rated. There was some colorful language used from one Toni Storm. If you know the character, you know why. Continue, good sir.
Absolutely. She did the entire thing in character. Like, she spent time with absolutely everyone, individualized the whole experience. It was amazing. And obviously, we got back from Mania. My voice was shot completely from all of the yeeting I wasn't doing. And she was like, you sound remarkably well for someone who I imagine was absolutely hammered last night. And I was like, "Oh, I recover really well." And we had a conversation about how I was naked in a casino. I don't really know how that conversation started, but it continued from there. And anyway, I had my photo taken with her. I had the picture signed, and we were talking about Mayu. And then I asked, I've got to talk to you about that promo that you cut regarding Stan Hansen. And she properly belly laughed. And I was like, it's probably my favorite promo ever, simply because you are cutting this, this hilarious promo, and Mayu has got no idea what's going on at all and is just looking at you. And she says, "Yeah, I don't think Mayu's English is as good as some of the other girls." As well, I've got to ask you, because I've now got a photo just there of Toni Storm and Elvis Presley, because obviously we know about that alleged affair. And I asked, who was better, Elvis or Stan Hansen? And she looked at me dead in the eye, completely straight-faced, and then, "There will always be time for the prince, darling. But Stan is always the man." And that was how I left it. I was like, do you know what?
That's the high spot.
She's fantastic. She's so good. She made it so worth it. Because her line was one, because she wasn't one of the pro ones. She was in like just the main room, but her line was the biggest one in that room. And it was, I don't think it got below 15 people deep for the entirety of the however long she was there. I think she was there for quite a few of the days as well. I think she was there for Saturday and Sunday, wasn't she?
Just Saturday and Sunday, start to finish. Because Saturday and Sunday they were all done early, because I think they wanted people to leave so they can go enjoy WrestleMania. I think both days were 9 to 1. So we got there as soon as it opened. Rob got to meet Evil. So
the suavest man in the history of the world, by the way. Like, how good. Like, Io's punching, I'm telling you.
oh, all right. Anywho, so we got to, so now we had about an hour before the first meet and greet started, which was Shuri and Tora? I think it was Shuri and Tora.
No, it was Tora and Konami, wasn't it? Oh, no, it wasn't. It was Shuri and Tora, I think.
Because then it was Momo and
It
anywho,
was Momo and
yeah.
Konami.
So we're like, well, we have time for, let's go Tony Storm. So we get into her line, and everybody, people were telling me on Saturday night, Sunday morning, that met Tony online. She's in complete character. I'm like, great. So we notice as we're getting to the front of the line, she gives you the belt, the AEW World's Women's Championship, the belt, because obviously she's the champion, to hold for photo. Great, awesome. Right? That's just adds on to the experience. Now, again, folks, what Rob just told you, that was my birthday present to him. The meet and greet with Tony Storm, and he obviously the happy birthday, good. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know that we both did. So what I did is I prepaid for one photo or two photos and two autographs, one for me, one for Rob. So now I can tell the story because he got his birthday present yesterday. Andy Hedder is the biggest Tony Storm fan in the world. Tony Storm is his favorite wrestler, not just female, not just AW. Tony Storm is his favorite wrestler. So I was like, all right, his birthday is a couple days after we come back. Plus, I want to get him a gift for thanking him for everything he's doing, editing and putting together the podcast. He's an absolute gem and just a great person. So I was like, I'm going to get him something from Tony Storm. So the lady is scanning our tickets, so this way we know what she has. And I said, is there any way I can add on another autograph? They're like, yes, it's this much. It's like, no problem, paid cash or the credit card or whatever. And I said, well, is there something I can buy at the table? Now, I did have Tony Storm on the cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated when she was #1 of the PWI 250, same one that Liv Morgan was 12, Io was 13. Again, we throw that in there. And I did have Tony on the cover of Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine when she wrestled Mayu back in, I believe it was October, November. And the picture is Mayu drop kicking Tony in the face, and it's a timeless revenge. So the Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine is what I want signed, but I want to get something different for Hedder. And the lady said, no, you already paid for an autograph. You can pick any photo you want at the table. Now, they did have the may or may not be Photoshop photos of her and Elvis, her and Babe Ruth, her and JFK. Again, may or may not be. And I was
Alleged.
like, again, I know Andy's not a big sports fan or really big into politics. I'm just going to get him the black and white photo of her with the AEW championship belt. So go in. Now, this is Easter Sunday. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to say something maybe about Easter Sunday and kind of go from there. So they basically said, Tony's going to take the picture first, and then she'll sign the things you want. So you want something personalized, just tell her, no problem. Gives me the belt. Before I can say anything, she goes, oh, and again, full character. Oh, you look great for being hungover first thing on a Sunday morning. So I was like, I didn't want to react. Take the picture. She was great. Give her the belt back. So she goes to sign the Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine. She goes, oh, Mayu Iwatani. It's one of my favorite memories, having her kick me in the face again. And I said, Mayu's buddy's wrestling on a big show today. She's the champion of said promotion, and you're the champion of your promotion. However, I said, last time I checked, Io doesn't have the best record against you. Io, 30-minute time limit draw for the red belt, and when she was red belt champion. And you beat Io in the finals of the Mae Young Classic. She goes, maybe I show up tonight. Maybe I show up in her match. And I go, boy, what a great tag match that would be. Thunder Rock versus you and maybe Mae Young. She goes, what about Wendy Rickner? I love Wendy Rickner. And I said, well, why don't we book Kairi in the match? We could have a 6-man tag. And she goes, you book it. You book it, good sir. Send an email. I go, an email. She goes, write a letter and book that match. So then she goes to take the photo. And I said, can you make this photo out to Andy and write something fun underneath? She goes, can I write anything? I said, anything you want. So she writes, to Andy, your friend in time. Again, obviously, Rob, me and you are both big Back to the Future fans. So a line from Back to the Future, and then writes timeless Tony Storm. So she puts the thing over, and before I can say anything, she goes, can you do me a favor, darling, and give Andy a kiss for me with tongue? And I go, where should I kiss him? He goes, anywhere you want, sweetheart. Dealer's choice. I was like, oh my God. And then Rob did his meet and greet. So I was just like, wow. Again, like Io is the big one because it's Io. But as far as like fun and just like really giving you like that moment, I mean, you'll never forget timeless Tony Storm. Just what a great meet and greet. And again, living up to the character. Absolutely. But I thought it was great. She was terrific. And then when she got done signing, somebody took a picture of her exhausted, almost doing like an exhausted dame in the 1950s movie on her table, which I thought was really fun. But it was also really fun, which I didn't realize until our buddy Chad, hi Chad, pointed out that Joe Henry, his table was right next to one Tony Storm. And even though Tony Storm show up on WrestleMania Sunday. Joe Hendry sure did, sir.
He certainly did. He certainly did. So, yeah, we met, obviously, all the Stardom wrestlers then. We met Natsuko Tora and Shiori. We met Momo Watanabe and Konami. And we also met Hanako and Maika. Now, they were all fantastic. Natsuko Tora, really, really nice. Considering she's a badass heel, she is genuinely funny. Her English is really good. Hanako's English is also really good. But the main reason I remember these meet and greets now is because of Jumbo Quincy, who had been so excited about meeting Maika that this poor lad is basically shivering. And we were in the queue waiting for him, and he's like, oh my God, it's my time, it's my time, it's my time. And he goes and meets Maika, has this lovely interaction with her, gives her a rose, which is lovely, turns round, and the entire crowd bursts into applause for him. And it was just the nicest moment. It was so nice. And he just topped off a really, really cool Stardom WrestleCon experience. Before we talk about Gabe Kidd and Megan Bay.
Yeah, now that real quick, I was wearing a Shuri shirt, which Natsuko Tora chopped, and then Konami said, again, part of my language, your shirt is shit. So obviously, however,
living that gimmick.
However, Shuri, I asked Shuri in our photo, I said, can we point to the photo, because it was the obviously they're not available anymore. It was Shuri when she was the belt collector. It was the image done, and it said the Stardom cast on. I said, can we point to the shirt? And then literally I tweeted out, Shuri approves of the shirt. She liked it and retweeted it. So even though Tora and Konami almost killed me, Shuri liked it and retweeted it. So I shall take that as a win, sir. I do want to point out that as Jumbo Quincy was getting ready to meet Maika, he was out of his mind. He was like sweating in Daichi. God bless him. Was trying to fan him off to calm him down. And I think he gave her a rose and like wrote her a letter. Something like that. And that's when it was. They got the photo. And we all did the applause, but Maika did remember us for giving her the beer last year, and I gave her, as I'm wearing the new Empress 32-bit shirt, which you can get on our new website. I did give her some of the stickers. So again, as last year, all the Stardom meet and greets were great. We got done with that. We had some time before we had to leave to get ready to go to WrestleMania. So we're like, let's walk the floor. There was another meet and greet with the Marvelous Wrestlers. They were in a different queue. So that was the one that I did make mention to Shuri when I met her. You and Takumi Roha were great. You and Takumi Roha need to run it back. And she's like, yes, absolutely. About a half an hour later, we did another group photo with the Marvelous Girls. Takumi Roha was in that line. Now she was standing right next to Chigusa Nagao, who, as far as I know, runs Marvelous. And I even said, Takumi, you and Shuri need to run it back for a singles match. She's like, absolutely. I said, last time you guys wrestled, 2021 final night of the 5-star Grand Prix, 30-minute draw. And I even said to Chigusa, if you don't book that, I was like, I think Mr. Okada will. So the pressure is on. The race is on. Who's going to book that match? I put it in their head. Not only was that cool, not only do we possibly book a Shuri versus Takumi Roha match right across the way from the Marvelous Girls, it's one of my all-time favorite MMA fighters, Don Fry. So I got to meet Don Fry. He was fantastic. I mentioned the match with Takayama. It's what we pretty much talked about for my 1 minute I was with him. And as soon as I posted that photo, everybody was like, did you talk to him about Takayama? It's like, damn right I did. I wish I would have asked what it was like being in Inoki's final match, because that was like 70,000 people in the Tokyo Dome. I just wanted to ask about Takayama. But we were kind of walking around, and then we literally had a 1-2 punch Rob Goodwin with Willow Nightingale and Gabe Kidd, sir.
We did, and it was great to see Gabe Kidd, because as I said to him at the time, I've followed his career since he was in WCPW, and he was, this white meat babyface, which is ridiculous to think about nowadays. But obviously everything he went through with his mental health, and that got really quite bad, and for him to get from that point to a point where he is one of the biggest things in New Japan. And I said to you, Matt, like, it would not surprise me if he wins this year's G1 Climax. And I don't think there'd be a single person who turned around and go, I wouldn't have done that. So that is all of this together. Sort of, he's a very inspirational person, and he gave me this big hug and said, thank you, I really do appreciate it. And we had a big conversation, and that it was a really nice moment, a really cathartic moment. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I got to meet him. So that was really good. And then once we'd done that, we met Megan Bain, and Megan Bain gave us like a 20-minute interview.
Yeah, again, this is all. I almost feel as bad as this that I did with Hazuki. We were literally now Willow Nightingale. Just real quick, because I know we still got to talk about WrestleMania and it's getting long. It's getting late. We did ask her who did she want to wrestle in Stardom that she hasn't wrestled. She would definitely wants to go back to Stardom. Obviously, we have the AEW Stardom relationship. She said Maika. She said there's a lot of girls, but if I can only wrestle one, it would be Maika. So we go over to Megan Bain. We get a photo. We do ask, who hits the hardest in Stardom. She said Giulia. And then we had like a 15, 20-minute conversation with her that she kept apologizing for. We're like, no. And I literally left. And I'm like, how did I not give her a business card? How did I not now I did make mention that we do a Stardom Cast podcast. And I know because we have tried to get the AEW wrestlers on the podcast, you got to go through the AEW channels, which I've gotten next to no success for. That will not stop me, good sir. So we will try. Again, I sent her an email letting her know, hey, we are the guys that had a long conversation with you. We would like to set up an interview. So fingers crossed we can have Megan Bain on the podcast. But she mentioned how much she loved wrestling Giulia, mentioned she definitely wants to go back to Stardom, obviously with the working relationship they have. There's a good possibility that does happen maybe sometime before the end of the year. But yeah, she literally, like I said, guys, I'm sorry to hold you guys up. Like, no. We're talking to Megan Bain about wrestling in Stardom and wrestling in Dream Queendom and teaming with Maika. Like, it was awesome. Like, yeah, we literally had like a 20-minute interview with her. She was absolutely fantastic and just had so many great stories. We could have talked to her for 2 hours. And again, I will do everything I possibly can, folks, with my AW contacts to try to get her on the show, because if we just had that conversation with her off the cuff, we can actually have a sit down hour interview with her. I think it would be absolutely fantastic. But everybody was a gem, but she was definitely up there as one of my favorite meet and greets. Just terrific.
Completely impromptu as well. Like we weren't out there to meet Megan Bain. We were just like, is that Megan Bain? Let's go and have a photo with her. And we just, started asking questions. And yeah, she was so pleasant. So, again, just kept apologizing to us. We're like, are you kidding me? This is gold. This is what we wanted to talk to you about. So thank you for taking the time. So that was really good. It was, again, one of the best impromptu meet and greets that we had. Moving on to WrestleMania Night 2, the official WrestleMania tailgate. And I will just point out, Darren, I do still hate you a little bit for making Matt chop me. Luckily, I was fairly buzzed at the time. But I will say I did manage to get my own back a little bit, Matt.
Yeah, not only that, but again, we talked about my buddy a couple hours ago. We talked about my buddy that lives in Vegas. He got a ticket. Yes, my buddy Andrew Jacoby. He's like, I will pick you guys up, so this way you guys don't have to pay for an Uber. So I gave a time. I said, now what was cool is right by our elevators, there was this frozen slushy machine where it's basically mix any alcohol you want. So we're like, let's get Jacoby wind up getting us a case of Coors Light, and let's get 3 giant frozen drinks. So Amber, being the smartest person in the room, was like, you better call him or text him to make sure you don't get in trouble for open container, which is something that you can get punished. And if you have an open container in a car and it's driving, you can get in trouble for that. So I asked him, and he's like, there is laws in Vegas for open container. I don't care about it. And if you think that we're going to be the only ones in a car on their way to Legion Stadium in open container, you're out of your mind. So I told Rob, I said, this is the time he's picking us up. But if you want to choose a frozen drink, you and Kirsty need to be down here at such and such time. Jacoby got there about 5 minutes early. And I was like, you better pull over on the side now, because now myself and Amber are texting Rob and Kirsty, like, get downstairs. Our ride's here. Our ride's here. We already had our 3 drinks ready to go. And then you text me and said, I'm in the elevator. Do we have time for frozen drinks? And I was like, just get outside. As you walked outside, because he was waiting there about 4 or 5 minutes, you could see like people were going to either get him a ticket or tell him he had to move. You came outside and I was like, we already have the frozen drinks. Don't worry about it. You were all set. Let's just get in the car and go before my buddy gets a ticket. So we go. He's driving around. He's trying to find a place to park. I said, dude, we're tailgating. Park as close to the venue as possible. And he's like, it's $100 to park. I thought he was joking. So we don't park in Allegiant Stadium. We parked about a football field away from Allegiant Stadium. And I give my credit card. And I was like, I'm just curious how much it is. And the guy's like, it's $100. So we didn't even park in actual Allegiant Stadium, and he still whacked us $100. So we did the math real quick. 2 days of WrestleMania, the parking probably made about $250,000, which is
easy.
insane. Which is insane. So we're drinking. Now I know we had a pina colada, which was great, and I know we had a strawberry margarita. What was the third drink we had?
Hurricane.
Oh, stand back. There's a hurricane coming through. So,
Absolutely.
of course, we do our new Stardom cast tradition, which Rob says is not a tradition.
It's not tradition.
Not a
It's not a
tradition.
tradition.
And I
It's
made
not
sure,
going to be a
and
tradition.
I text Darren and I said, what am I yelling before I hit Rob? So I hit him with the chop. That was fun. We wind up meeting some friends.
It
And
was
then
fun, was it?
yeah, it was fun. Rob hit me back. I was like, absolutely, you can hit me back. We're sitting there having a good time. We wind up meeting some friends because that's what we do. And all of a sudden, my buddy, again, Andrew Jacoby, who lives in Vegas, sees this tricked out Escalade come pulling into the parking lot. And he's like, oh, it's Flavor Flav. Like, as if it's like, oh, that's just, it's just so-and-so. I said, how do you know? And he's like, oh, he's in a bowling league with my wife or something like that, he said. Sure enough, Flavor Flav gets out of the car and he's driving. We're like, Flav, come have a drink with us or let's get a photo. He goes, no, man, I'm late, which is funny because we find up seeing him on the Jumbotron sitting front row. And I even looked at you. I was like, that's what Flavor Flav was late for, that he couldn't do a photo with us, which was fine. But like, he didn't even park in the real parking lot. He parked in the adjacent parking lot. You figure they would have been able
Hilarious.
to get him in here. So anywho, I chopped Rob. Rob chops me back, and Rob really wanted to learn how to lock up. I taught Rob how to lock up. And I'm not just saying this because he's my buddy. By about the fifth time he did it better than maybe about half the people I wrestled on the indies over the last few years. Now, I don't know if it's because Rob's a fast learner. I don't know if it's because I'm a good teacher, or I don't know because some of the independent wrestling schools around here are terrible. So teach your kids better. But yes, and then I taught Rob about Iron Neck, how you can choke somebody out from standing up. And then I showed him the claw, how to use the lockup to take somebody down. So that was a whole hoot of fun. And then I was not loaded, but I was feeling pretty good on tequila and coconut rum. And we get in there, plenty of time to relax. Again, great seats. And then the opening match starts, Rob Goodwin. And not only is it beautiful out, not am I full of joy and energy, but I'm full of tequila, rum, and a little bit of beer as well. And it all just happened to hit me at the right time as one Io Sky came out.
Yeah, and then obviously the three-way, which has got 5 stars from Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer, happened. It's an incredible match, fantastic live. It was amazing. The entire atmosphere was buzzing. Everyone was into the match. Matt managed to start a fight with someone, which was quite interesting.
Started and ended pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was ended fairly quickly. Some guy told him to sit down, and Matt turned around and told him in no uncertain terms to have a lovely Easter, which was hilarious.
Family. And then he didn't know what to do.
His family, yeah. But Kirsty turned around and like, what's his problem? I was like, yes, she's getting into it. But yeah, so it was an incredible match. I'm not going to go through it blow by blow because I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen the match. Io Sky is the best women's worker at the moment in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. Bianca and Rhea are fantastic. Io carries that match. And we're not just saying that because we're huge Io Sky fans. We're saying it because it's true. That was followed by a brilliant Sin City Street fight with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre, where out of nowhere, the guitarist of Slayer came out to play Damian Priest to the match.
Yeah, Kerry King. So again, you put yourself in my mental space. So again, it's a beautiful day. I got all this booze hitting me at the right time. Io comes out. This is our second time we get to see Io in a championship match. We met her the day before. She was lovely. Goes on and puts the best women's match to ever happen in American soil. And again, wrestling subjective. You can like what you like. I will debate with that. And that's the best match, women's match, to happen on American soil. Not WrestleMania, not WWE, on American soil. It was that good. Now that was the atmosphere. And I've been so lucky. WrestleMania 15, Philadelphia, Austin, Rock, great atmosphere. 18, Rock, Hogan, great atmosphere. This was almost on that level. And a lot of it had to do with all three ladies were over. Bianca got booed and I understand because of the storyline, but Bianca's great. There were so many people that were going for Rhea Ripley, but by the end of that match, because of just how great Io was, that our section we were in went from like 90-10 rooting for Io. So anytime, what happened was, just everyone might be asking what happened in said fight that obviously didn't happen. Anytime Io did a giant move, our section popped. And I was probably the most vocal. So, and again, I got some tequila in me. I got some rum. I'm rocking and rolling. Somebody yelled, "Hey, Piper," because I was wearing a Roddy Piper shirt. Shout out to late great Roddy Piper. "Hey, Piper, sit down." I'm like, oh, I'm not taking a deal with that. So I turned around. I go, "Who said that?" The guy stands up, and the guy looked like he weighed about $110. And I said, and literally in my head, I thought, my grandfather always told me, be nice to everybody. If somebody's being mean to you, be overly nice to them because they won't know how to react. Guy looked like he weighed about $110. I was like, this isn't going to end up well. I said, you're the one that said that? I said, yeah. The Morgan shirt. I hope you and your family have a great Easter. Everybody around him started laughing. Shamed this poor guy. The guy sat down. Match finishes. Io wins. I'm high-fiving people I don't know. Great match. I'm on an electric high. Then all of a sudden, Kerry King from Slayer comes out to play Damian Priest to the ring. So I'm like, how much better can this day get?
It was a fairly sensational moment, to be fair. That was followed by the Intercontinental four-way match. That was great as well. And at this point, everyone is on cloud nine. Joe Hendry appears to be Randy Orton's mystery opponent. That got a huge, huge pop. Logan Paul beat AJ Styles. Don't really know why. But a YouTuber defeated a legitimate pro wrestler. There you are. Becky Lynch got a huge pop, returning as Lyra Valkyria's mystery opponent. And then we had the main event, John Cena and Cody Rhodes, with one of the flattest finishes I think I've ever seen to a WrestleMania main event. Everyone wanted The Rock. We didn't get The Rock. We got a Travis Scott. Now, what a Travis Scott is, I don't know. I know he does the Fiend song, which I heard far too much over WrestleMania week. But yeah, it was the result we thought we were getting in a way that pleased nobody. To the point where Stephanie McMahon had to come onto the microphone at the end of the show to tell everyone that it had finished, because everyone was waiting, assuming that something else was going to happen. But no Rock, which it makes it funny because WWE World was selling merch that said, finally, The Rock has come back to Las Vegas. And he wasn't in the state. A very flat finish, but we were spoiled with that opener. That opener was fantastic. Rightly got given 5 stars by the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And again, like what you like, take Dave Meltzer's opinion with a grain of salt. It still carries some credibility. So to get 5 stars, tremendous. The first WWE women's match to get 5 stars. I'm sure I read someone had put. So incredible stuff for them. Really, really good experience. Again, really, really well put together. And again, something that I will always, always remember. But we are not finished yet, Matt Turner, because on Monday, it was back to WWE World we go for photos with KAIRI and with Giulia.
Yeah, not only that, but we made mention a little bit ago, we had a rush out of WWE World on Saturday so we can get to the Stardom meet and greet. So we had some time to walk around WWE World, which was fantastic. We walked through the little Hall of Fame thing, the Triple H exhibit. I mean, this was great. I mean, this is something, again, if we decide to go next year, I would definitely like to spend a day going through WWE World because I thought it was terrific. Their merchandise stand was crazy. They didn't have any magnets. They sold out, but oh well. But yeah, we went to go meet. We started with KAIRI, and she tweeted something out about an hour before her photo op that she had something special for everybody. So I'm sure very much KAIRI and Giulia, very much like Io, made you feel like the most important person in that room for the 20 or 30 seconds you were with them. And again, this wasn't the autograph. This was just the photo. So you're going through it pretty quick. KAIRI looked like she was dressed, ready to go to the prom.
She really was. Out. She was lovely as well, KAIRI was. Yeah, absolutely lovely.
She looked great, did a lot of the pirate poses with everybody. And then she gave everybody a little bit of a sticker, or when she was leaving, it was like her handlers gave everybody a fancy little sticker. So that was nice. And it was also nice that when WWE World or Epic Photos sent me the picture, it was the right person. So I'm like, that is me. That is Rob. So that was a good one. But again, good on them for correcting the thing with Io as fast as they did. And it's funny because that guy was fantastic. So we did that. Again, we walked around a little bit. We saw John Cena on the Pat McAfee show because the Pat McAfee show was live on WWE World. We saw Paul Heyman at the live on the Pat McAfee show, and that stuff we cannot repeat on the podcast. The stuff
no, we cannot.
He was Paul E. Dangerously from 1995, 1996 ECW. He was phenomenal. I'm like,
spitting
wow.
fire.
Yeah, spitting fire. And then we got in line for the Giulia meet and greet, and we did I think you did as well, the Donald Del Mundo pose. Yes, she knew I was wearing a Stardom Cast shirt, and she goes, "Oh, Stardom Cast." So again, I thought that was really cool. Again, she was lovely as well. And I thought WWE World was terrific. I thought the meet and greets were handled really well. Again, they didn't rush you through there, but at the same time, they understood we need to get as many people in and out of here as possible. So this way we can get as many photos. So again, KAIRI, absolutely lovely. Giulia, fantastic. Io, she's the queen for a reason, buddy.
Absolutely. And I just want to shout out to Andy and to Brandon as well, who we stood in line with and just had a bit of a chat with as we were waiting for Giulia. So big shout out to them. And that brought to an end our Vegas experience. Obviously, you went home the next day. Matt, me, and Kirsty stayed on a little bit just to do a few of the touristy things. We went to the Grand Canyon and we went to go and see a show, which was lovely. Of course, there are plenty to go and see. And me and Kirsty decided to find the most British one we could possibly find. So we went to go and see a Harry Potter one. So there you go. But Matt, unless there is anything else you want to add to this, I think it's about time we got out of here, as we've been going, my friend, for 3 3/4 hours.
And the fact we were supposed to do an interview before this, kind of a blessing
Yes.
in disguise. We did not get there. We did not get there because I know it's getting close to midnight your time. But no, it was great. It was so good finally meeting Kirsty, obviously, buddy. An absolute blast. I don't know which one I like better, this one or the last year, Philadelphia, which just goes to show you that when we get together, my man, we make it count. We really, really do. Again, it was an incredible experience just meeting everybody from all over the world. It's mind-blowing what we're able to do here on the podcast, and just being able to meet Io and Hazuki and KAIRI and Julie, and you with Gabe Kidd was fantastic, and Megan Bain and Tony Storm. It was just a phenomenal time. And then to wrap it all up, the one thing I didn't think I was going to see is Rob got Amber drunk. Again, my wife, I've been with her 15 years. I've only seen her drunk 3 times. This is the first time she's been drunk since she has my last name. This is the first. So the next morning we woke up and my beautiful bride was a little bit on the hangover side, my friend. But I got home safe. Obviously, you got
Fremont Street, baby.
Yeah, there it is. Just a phenomenal time. I mean, I know everybody's been waiting for this podcast. We hope the wait was worth it. Almost 4 hours of podcast goodness, which just goes to show we've been podcasting almost 10 hours this week, buddy. Almost 10 hours. No, I think about 10 hours if you add in the Patreon episodes.
Absolutely. And I will just say, I know that Patreon is going to get mad at me. I'm not editing this episode tonight. As Matt said, it's nearly midnight my time. I'm not going to have enough time to do it tonight, so it will come out tomorrow. So please just bear with me. I will put something out. Just bear in mind it's not coming out till tomorrow. I am a sleepy boy. But thank you to everyone. We massively appreciate you. I just want to shout out one final time. Obviously, Kirsty and Amber, who people can now attest to are actually real people, which is always good. We haven't made them up. For sticking with what is for people who don't like wrestling a fairly grueling week, and not only just dealing with it, but also really getting into the swing of it and really dealing with it really well. So thank you very much to both of you, because you really made it awesome. But yeah, thank you to all the fans we met out there, all the listeners we met out there, all the listeners we didn't meet out there. Thank you to everyone for the support and your continued support, because it really does mean the absolute world to me and Matt. In the meantime, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. That would be a great way to help us out. You could leave us a comment, a 5-star review. That would massively help us be exposed to more people and help to spread the word of Joshi around. You can also subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/the Stardom Cast, where you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, apart from this one, which you're getting at the same time because it is 12 o'clock my time and I don't have enough time to edit it before I need to go to bed. But ordinarily, $1. You can get these early and ad-free. Check out the website, talkjoshi.com, for all of the news, as well as all of the stuff that we discussed at the start of the podcast about 3.5 years ago, with Mayu and Maika and all of that as well, and all of the stats, statistics, histories, and all of the archived episodes from the Stardom Cast and the Marigold Standard. talkjoshi.com. You can find us on social media at the Stardom Cast, apart from Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram, where we are Talk Joshi. You can find me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Mr. Matt Turner, sign us off, my man.
Folks, questions, comments, suggestions, anything you need from me, Matt Turner OF, on the Instagram, on the Twitter, on the MySpace. No, you guys know how to get a hold of me. Yes, yeah, exactly. The prodigy. Folks, Rob, I know you're tired. I need you a little bit of energy here, a little bit of energy so you can help out our listeners with the email address, which simply is the StardomCast22@gmail.com. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for another fun-filled episode, a special episode of the Stardom Cast. We greatly appreciate your support. Can't do without you. It's like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all together. Everybody's different. Everybody's special.